He didn't come out yet, he might not know.
Okay, so we are now returning from our executive session. Welcome to the August 25th, 2022 school committee meeting. We are going to skip down quick because we're late coming back from executive session. So we're going to go down to section 4, the presentations, and we're actually going to start right there. So you're up. We're going to listen intently, and then you can stay if you'd like, or you can go, which is fine.
Okay. Hi, so my name is Alex Strum, and this is Don Quinley, and the two of us working with Jamie Murphy as well are starting the Holliston Athletic Hall of Fame. This is something that we wanted to do for a couple of reasons. One, we thought it was long overdue. Pretty much every town around us has one. And, you know, we have a pretty, long and distinguished athletic history here that we wanted to, kind of pay tribute to. And we thought it'd be a nice positive thing for the community. It's been a tough couple of years for everyone. So what better time to provide something that, can get the community working together, working with the school and everything that can really be a kind of uplifting, positive thing. And the three of us, who we are and why we're doing it, all three of us are active coaches here. I'm the assistant coach of the wrestling team. Dawn is the head coach of the softball team, and Jamie is the head coach of the state champion girls cross country team. And all three of us also work here are our teachers. We're all members of the English faculty here at the high school, which we think that's important, that while this isn't something that is officially a part of the school or a part of the budget done in conjunction kind of partnership with the school, we think it's really important to have active members of the faculty and of the school involved with it. And before I move on, I just want to thank Matt Baker, Nicole Bottomley, and Dr. Kuska, who have all met with us. This is a process that we started about 8 months ago and have met with a number of people along the way, kind of shaping, organizing our idea of what we're planning to do. So, and I thank you to all of you for meeting with us tonight.
And kudos, because you did a lot of homework before you met with me.
Yes.
I appreciated your thorough presentation to me.
Oh, no problem. All right. Okay, so where we're at right now, we're in the very early stages here, and one of the first things that we have to do is we have to get together the rest of the selection committee. Myself, Don, and Jamie are three of the initial members on it, although we plan to cycle ourselves out in a kind of staggered over the next few years to let other people kind of fully take over it. Whether we rotate back in once someone else's term comes up, that's great. But ultimately, we don't see this as something we're doing for ourselves. We want it to be something that a lot of people can be involved with, that can bring in members of the community as well as the school. What we're looking for is an additional 4 members for a total of 7. We would like there to be 3 active faculty coaches on at all time, again, to keep it kind of tied to the school. The athletic director is not a member of the committee. It's designed that they'll never be kind of like a main part of it, but instead act as like a liaison between the school and the Hall of Fame. We're already talking with Mr. Baker about where this will go and how it will look and all that. So working as a partner, but he would not be on the selection committee. Currently, we're looking for applications. We've already posted hard copies of them at various places around town, Superette, Fisk's, and Corner Market. So if anyone would like to submit a hard copy form, kind of the old school method, that is available to them, but all the forms are available on our website, which is already active as well and is listed on the bottom of each of the slides here. And we're hoping to get enough applications for that by September 15th so that we can move forward and turn our attention to the nominations as fast as we can. If we don't have enough applications, of course, we can kind of move things around. But our hope is that there'll be enough interest that we can get 4 quality candidates by that time. There's a lot more details on the form and on the website in terms of what we're looking for and what the responsibilities are.
Could have tabbed.
But to put it in general, we really want people that, one, are going to be willing to be active and, take on a duty. There's going to be a lot of work, especially this first time around, in organizing this. But, whether that duty is publicity or organizing the induction, the night of, like that event, or, organizing the nomination forms and everything like that, we're looking for people that want to be active. And we're also looking for people that are going to be unbiased. They're not wanting to be a part of this because they love this one sport and they had kids who played for this one sport and now this is a feeder for that one sport. We really want people that are going to look at a wide array of every person who ever has been involved or could be involved with Holliston athletics, whether it's athletes, coaches, contributors, all the way down to the people taking tickets, managers, mascots, whatever have you. We want this to be a committee, a selection committee that kind of covers everything because we want to be able to consider everything. All right? Is there anything there?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're on a roll. So.
Okay. Next slide then. All right. Starting congruently with looking for the rest of our selection committee, we have also opened up the exception of nominations. Those we're looking to accept for another couple of weeks. We're going to have to do a lot of publicity, getting it out there, spreading the word, which is what we're really hoping we can start tonight, getting the word out to people to start sending us in nominations. I mean, we feel confident that we know a lot of people that could, be solid nominations, but it's not about us. We want to cover, as far back in time as possible, from as many different sports as possible, covering every different kind of era of the life of the school since we've had athletics programs here. So we would love to get as many nominations as possible. There's 4 categories. There's athlete, coach, contributor, or a team, and they can all be nominated through the exact same form, either electronically or they can mail it. They can drop it off here at the high school, where Dawn will be collecting any hard copies. We're trying to get everything in by October 1st so that we can, meet during November and be able to inform the initial induction class during December. And we're planning on announcing it in all the local newspapers, online media outlets, things like that, really publicizing and celebrating our initial induction class. Okay. In terms of eligibility, when considering someone being nominated, athletes must have graduated at least 10 years prior to nomination. So if someone graduates this year, they're not eligible right away. They would have to wait 10 years. For coaches, they must have left their position at least 5 years prior to the nomination year, or become immediately eligible after turning 60 years of age. So, some coaches go for a really long time. We do want to be able to, honor them, even if they're still active at age 60 coaching. Other administrators and contributors to athletic programs are eligible by previous guidelines. Same thing as with the athletes and the coaches. Again, if we're talking about people who might be working the sidelines, working security events, they could be doing that, for any number of years, and we want to make sure that they can still be honored. So at 60, they could be eligible as well. And active selection committee members are not eligible. So, Dawn, myself, Jamie, we are not eligible to be nominated for obvious reasons for that. And I believe we have some specifications that I believe active parents of active students are not on the selection committee, cannot be on the selection committee for, we're again trying to just build enough distance that it's easy to maintain that kind of unbiased, equitable approach. Okay. We have already booked the space for our first induction. We are planning on doing it Saturday, March 25th at the DoubleTree in Milford. You can see there all the people who are invited to attend. We will have more solid numbers in terms of how many invitees are allowed per, or how many guests are allowed per induction member once we see like the space and have an idea of exactly how many people, we think we're talking about, how many they can fit in ticket prices and all that. So we're still sorting out a couple of things. We're sorting out the financial side of this. The plan, we have a lot of ideas on how we can raise money. The plan is that this is not a school-funded thing. This is not coming out of the school's money. Like I said, it's more of a partnership deal. So we're going to be doing kind of all the fundraising ourselves. We've been in talks with Matt Baker about things that we could possibly do together. I don't want to go beyond that just because we have a lot of ideas, but they're still just ideas. But the plan is that it will be separated as not, a line item for the school. Also, where it's going to physically be located, it's going to be down in the gym area, but specifically where in that hallway or in the gym, what it's going to look like exactly, we're still working through that with the athletic department, with the school as well. All right, so those are the two things that I don't have all the details on yet because we're still figuring out and sorting through that, but we have ideas on both and have been, in conversations with a lot of people on doing that. And I guess the one other thing that I would want to bring up, just because it's a question that has come up and it's a question that we did a lot of research on, is, why just athletics? Why not open it up to everybody? And we looked at 30 different districts in the area all around here to see what they had done, to see if that was perhaps the best way to go forward. And out of the 30, currently all 30 have kept it strictly to athletics. A number of them also have separate kind of Hall of Fames or something similar for either whether it's member of the arts or academics or things like that. But it seems like a lot of them, even some have tried it. I believe that Framingham had up till a couple of years ago, they did have just one together, which made a lot of sense at the time that they founded it because it was from what I read in the news article, it was used as like a fundraising tool for extracurriculars. So of course, if you're gonna, the money should be going out to all extracurriculars, so it should honor all extracurriculars. But they have since then split theirs actually into two separate Hall of Fames as well. So I think it would be amazing to have a space to honor all students, and I would fully support that. I don't think I'm the right guy for that, for all of those projects or whatever that may be, but it's a question that we did seriously consider because, like I said, equity is something that we want to be at the core of what we're doing. So like I said, with contributors, anybody who passes through this building, if becoming a member of the Athletic Hall of Fame is something that they want to do, no matter how good of an athlete they may be, there's a lot of different ways that people contribute to the athletics here, and anybody that comes through could find their way into consideration for sure. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay. All right, and I guess please spread the word. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I really appreciate that you put this out there. Do you envision, like a web page with the inductees that's somehow linked to our Holliston web page, a Twitter feed, or announcements that go along with this?
Yeah, we will have a Twitter feed and a website as well.
Yeah, the website's already active.
Yes.
And we plan on having all the social media and everything in that. In fact, so Jamie Murphy's done a lot of that work to start, but that would be probably one of the positions of people on the committee. So if there's someone who really wants to be the one, celebrating, spreading the word, getting it out there, that's definitely a job that's going to be an important part of this. We don't have it attached to the school yet. We would love for that, but that's, again, that we would need permission for that and partnership. But that would be the idea, especially once we're really up and running, hopefully. Yep.
So in the selection committee, you said current parents of all Holliston students are ineligible.
Yes,
So
active Holliston
all
students.
Holliston students or just the athletes? All Holliston students?
Yeah, because, if you're friends with your neighbor and your neighbor's kid happens to be a phenomenal athlete, or they hadn't, graduated, or they were a coach or something, we're just trying to build the idea was to build enough distance that it's still tethered to the school without risking I guess, what's the term I'm looking for? Conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But of course, after a certain number of years, all those people would become able to serve on the selection committee and be eligible for nomination and all that as well. So really all it takes is time. Yes.
Thanks for doing this. In addition to honoring the folks who get inducted, I assume that a purpose of this is to sort of provide like role models for the current students
Yes,
here.
yeah,
So with that in mind, I guess I have two questions. I'm glad to hear you talking about equity and opening up to all sorts of people. And I'm hoping that you guys will have like be mindful of including plenty of like females, people of color, in your nominees and inductees, and maybe even like formally have that as part of the criteria to become a selection board member, right? To be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you know, we really like the makeup of the three of us that we have, because between all three of us, we cover every season. We cover both girls and boys sports, all right? And we know how important that is. And, you know, we can only kind of consider the nominations that come to us, but, you know, that is something that we have in mind as we look at who we'd be selecting and inducting. We'd be asking that of the selection committee as well. So again, if, you know, someone applies to be on the selection committee and we're like, great, what do you know, what are your, you know, why do you want to do this? Like, I want to really celebrate, you know, Holliston wrestling, and that's it. It might not be the best member for the committee selection or selection committee. Yes.
And this may also be a question that you can address, but our co-ed unified basketball program, has that been around for 10 years or more? And if it's
No, I don't think so,
would you
but
consider an exception of maybe a 5-year look back or a shortened period so that we're inclusive of co-ed unified basketball, only because it's you're going back to athletes or coaches or teams that are 10 years in the past, and unfortunately we didn't have that program 10 years or more ago.
So, I mean, we're in such an early stage that everything is flexible, which is nice. We can change. I mean, these rules and guidelines are really just what we came up with in conversations that we thought were most fair. So, what I would consider anything right now. At the same time, we anticipate for the first few years. I mean, there's no inductees yet, and there's going to be we're hoping to get such a large swarm of nominations that I don't want to necessarily rush and like skip people to the front of the line, regardless of how, you know, a program that just because of the youth of the program. But I mean, I'm not opposed to it. That's not something specifically that we discussed yet as in terms of an exception, so.
I
Yes.
have a quick question, and maybe this is more clear on your, on the nomination form when you're looking at athletes. In kind of in line of what Amanda was saying in terms of diversity and, you know, looking kind of wider, is there a space for student athletes who brought something to the program that maybe wasn't just the highest score or the fastest time? You know, is there, I hate to say, like the Team Spirit Award or like the, you know, Dedication Award, like is there space for people like that in the Hall of Fame already in your nomination form?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the nomination form, which it's, frankly, I think I'm worried it's a little too long-winded. That's just how I am. It's a little too detailed. But it does say one of the considerations is, I believe, the wording is overall contributions to school and athletic culture.
Okay.
And that's kind of with the idea of like, you know, it's not just about how well you perform on a field. We want people of high character, people who kind of represented the school and the town well. That should be a consideration as well as all the athletic excellence.
Right. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
So I think even though this is a collaboration and it's being funded outside because of them using our property, we felt that you would want to vote on this moving
This
forward.
would be only true for Holliston students, and are there any limit of number of years that they have to be a student, or they could be?
We haven't put any limit on that. The only kind of, you know, fence that we put around it is Holliston High School. So they would have had to participate, compete, whatever, contribute here for Holliston High.
Okay.
So like, for example, if they were a town resident but went to a private school, we would not consider that candidate, because that school probably has their own separate Hall of Fame that they can be considered for.
And I don't know if this would happen or if there is, but could there be a situation where you had someone in middle school was participating in intramurals or something, and then something happened to that student, so they didn't go to high school? I was just thinking of some unique situations like that.
Hopefully this takes off and is around for many, many years. I'm sure at some point there will be plenty of scenarios that will come across that we have not considered. I'm sure even in this first year, we might get nominations that it's like, wow, okay.
Consider, yeah.
Did not think about this, and we'll have to address them as they come up.
You could have a student who is very good at chess. I don't think high school has chess competitions, don't they?
We've had it off and on over the years.
Yeah, so, but I mean, some sport that's not necessarily played in Holliston, but a kid really brings,
Sounds like they're keeping an open mind.
Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty much, I
Yeah.
think, what we're getting at.
Including club sports, I assume.
We don't have those.
Yeah.
What about ultimate frisbee?
That's not a club.
It's MIA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on my
Never
list.
mind.
It's considered. Alex, any thought to a limitation on number of people per year?
Yeah, so, and again, these are just the numbers that we come up with that we thought made sense. Our goal for the first year was 8 individuals and 2 teams. You know, we thought 10 was a good number. We looked at what of a lot of other area Hall of Fames, what they did, how often they were doing inductions, how many in each class, and there was a wide variety of answers that we saw, and kind of the median of all that. Especially to start, we're hoping every year, 8 and 2, for the foreseeable future. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where either we're inducting smaller classes or we're doing it every other year instead. But I'm not worried about that for a few years.
This just shows my ignorance to it. Currently, do any of the sports have their own like Hall of Fame situation?
So that's a really good question, actually, and I know that certain teams have, and one of the challenges for us is that there's varying degrees of detailed records. For certain sports, you could find every statistic, every record, everything very quickly. Not every team has that. So that's going to be a challenge that we're going to have to overcome. But I don't know if any of them have. I don't believe. If they do, I'm not aware of them, of any specific Hall of Fame. We're not looking to compete with anyone. I don't think we are. But we're hoping ours will kind of be the it for the
And
district.
that's one of the things we want to talk to Mr. Baker about too, is about keeping those detailed records, maybe on an ongoing basis.
Right, yeah, at least going
Because
forward.
there's not really a central location for those ongoing records.
Right.
That's on track.
Well, definitely.
They have the track.
Right,
Board. yeah.
right, they do it, right.
So this probably goes without saying, but I guess I'm thinking about it, so I'll ask it anyway. If a parent can be on the selection committee, a couple of years after their child graduates, do we need to should there be some kind of provision, and I don't know that it has to be this formal, but some sort of provision where you can't vote for a relative, or you can't,
In detail, again, I'm trying to give the
high level.
viewer-friendly version of this, but if you look at the selection committee form, there is something in there stipulating that I think you have to recuse yourself. For example, I'm a coach. If one of my athletes, I haven't been here long enough that any of my athletes, but if they eventually did come up, they can be nominated, but I have to recuse myself from the discussion and the voting on that person.
Got it.
But yeah, relative would make a lot of sense too.
Great. Anything else? Very cool.
So, may I make a motion to, are we just approving or just supporting? I think in support of the Holliston High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
Seconded by Stacy.
Moved by Dawn, second by Stacy. All in favor?
Yep.
Great.
Excellent.
you.
Thank you for the support.
Thank you, really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for doing all that.
Thank you.
Sounds very exciting.
Those last few hours.
Summer laughs.
Yeah, really looking forward to it.
All right, so in keeping with our
Thank you.
humanitarian efforts to get observers out, can we move down to number 9, the Outdoor Learning Alliance? It's under old business. Hello. Thank you for coming back again.
Thank you for making time for us. So, introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
So, we're representing the Outdoor Learning Alliance, which is a subcommittee of the PTO. I'm Jen Peterson. I'm the chair. This is Teresa Marlar. the visionary.
I won't go that far.
So we are here to follow up on the June meeting. We feel that we have addressed the concerns that you brought forth at that meeting. So we're just wondering if there's any clarifying questions, if there's any additional questions.
Or does anyone want a recap of the project, or?
Let's start with questions, maybe.
So I think, so I'm unclear on what has changed since June in terms of commitment financially. What has changed in 3 months? Have you already fundraised? Have you already gotten money? Like, what has changed?
So we got a list from the PTO on, in order to receive their support, we need to abide by quite a list of conditions, and we have agreed to that. We have received so in terms of the funding support, I mean, the whole thing is for it to be funded by ARPA. So it was our understanding that the major concerns were the allergens, which we addressed, the O'Connell family, which we have the support, and then the PTO oversight.
Can I just ask a question about that? So when you were here last time, I think you were not part of the PTO?
That's correct. So we formed a subcommittee.
So you're under the PTO?
We are under the PTO. We are the Outdoor Learning Alliance subcommittee of the PTO, of which I'm chair. We have 5 members right now.
So to your question, we're still looking for ARPA to fund the project. The budget has not changed. Nothing about the project has specifically changed. We are just trying to navigate the process to get to ARPA to get the funding approved. And part of that, which Catherine just mentioned, we formalized ourselves under the PTO as an official subcommittee. And the PTO is committing to provide $250 annually for maintenance of this space going forward, based on our ability to fundraise at least that much. They're going to match those funds. We don't feel that would be an issue at all. We're very comfortable with that. Yeah. We also have ongoing maintenance from not only from the PTO, but we have scouts, and we have letters of commitment from them to maintain this space on a volunteer basis in perpetuity if need be. And then we have ourselves as well as a committee. And so part of partnering with the PTO and becoming a subcommittee of the PTO also gives us, not only does it give us oversight of the funding, it gives us this small amount to help maintain the space, but it also gives us a platform to reach out for volunteers and getting help from the community to keep the space going.
So my concern, and this is really to Susan and Keith, is if the district will need to fund it at some point. And if that's the case, that's where I'm saying, nope, not yet. I think we need a plan, what have you. The PTO does do a lot of supplementing, and we've talked about that. At what point should the district be paying for something versus not? So if this is strictly going to fall to that group, that's one thing. But if we think that the schools are going to be responsible for anything, I think that's the different conversation.
We did talk in our meeting about the concerns around summertime, when people are on vacation and may not have access to the building and so forth. Would that fall on our staff, because we don't have dedicated staff to do that work? Weeding, watering, things like that. And they felt like they could commit to the summer months as well with some of the groups that they talked about. You're right, there's always an uncertainty. What I don't want to happen, and I discussed this as well, is we had people at Art Saves Lives sending pictures to me about how horrid our outdoor areas look.
Right.
And again, we have not had dedicated budgeted staff, and unfortunately, since I've been here, that has not, during COVID, has not been a priority, because our goal was to get kids educated during COVID.
Right.
That is something in the future with new DPW staff. I'm hopeful that we can get some more work done on the schools and maintaining things. But at this point, we don't have dedicated staff to commit.
Well, and I think that we're the dedicated volunteers.
Correct.
That's what we're saying in our subcommittee, forming the subcommittee. We have committed. I'm here till 2030. I have one child in the district. He graduates in 2030. See, yep, he's still here. So I'm committed, and we envision this to be the first phase of many projects to go on for years to come. So it's not just we want to do this Placentino courtyard and then that's it. We're going to sit back and we're going to maintain it for 8 years. We want to then look at Miller, Rams. We want to look at this courtyard here. And of course, you can't just do a carbon copy of the design because every school will have different needs based on the area and the age group and everything. But I envision this taking off. And I think, in talking with other people from the community, the Downtown Marigold project came up, and how that was just a couple of people with an idea, and now it is fully funded by the entire community, and it's really become kind of self-perpetuating and self-funding to a certain extent. I mean, I know I get the letters. We all get the letters every year to send in the donations. So it's the start of many things to come.
And I assume, like any volunteer organization, you're like open to like recruiting other volunteers to like take over, and like it'll be a process where every year you reevaluate like who's going to do this next year and who's going to do this next year.
Yes, yes.
And we did also talk, I believe, about the middle school students do their community service. That might be a time in the spring when they could do some of the heavy, whatever, planting or weeding and things like that.
Yeah, and the way that Teresa and Kasha designed this is that it would be quite low maintenance. And we're not going to have this massive vegetable garden that's going to be out of control, the way mine was when I got back from vacation. And the higher maintenance areas, we do have commitment from teachers to maintain those.
Was there any discussion with the O'Connell family around
Yes.
Commitee?
We have a letter.
On that?
We have a letter from Mrs. O'Connell. They are in support.
And she'll be there to
Yeah, she
get her
loves the
hands
idea.
dirty.
I think the idea is wonderful. But with the needs of the district and the money, I struggle with spending that amount of money on this one very specific area when the district itself has several needs, the community has several needs. And I also struggle with the fact that the middle school students used their voices first, if you will, and this isn't a race.
Sure.
But they used their voices, and what's the message to them? Because our message to them was, we just knocked down the building, we're going into a budget year, so I want to be mindful about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're more than happy to take them under our wing to have that as a subsequent phase. I don't think that this is mutually exclusive, that it's this or that. I think that we could do both, and we're not asking for the district's money, we're asking for ARPA funds. And the way that it was explained to me by Ken is that ARPA is going to house the funds and say, okay, we have given you up to X amount of dollars. We can use up to that, but if we don't use it, which we anticipate that once this gets rolling, we're going to get a lot of volunteers, we're going to get landscapers who want their names on it, we'll get lots of plants donated, so on and so forth. We anticipate that the amount of money that we're asking for, we're not going to use, and that's just going to go back into the ARPA funds, or it will be used for a subsequent phase, perhaps the flag field.
When you say landscapers are going to get their name on it, what do you mean?
That's so, I mean, they might ask for a plaque. If they do ask for this was donated by, would that be a problem?
That's the 7 people in front of you.
I don't know,
That's the
or-
determination.
That would be, yeah.
No. Is there a precedent for that? For example, like in the high school gym, if people, often you'll see a walkway where a brick is donated by a family or someone's donated. I mean, have we done that?
Forewarned is forearmed, but yes, I mean, the gym had the wood fake wood blocks or whatever.
right.
The scoreboard, we got certain donations for people putting their business name on there.
So we have done it.
We have done that, but again, this is exclusively your control with regards to who gets to advertise and how much and things of that nature.
I think you just may want to have a policy because you just never know what could arise and come forward, and if it's something that
Yeah,
the
and if-
school would want to be having us on their, just.
Right, yeah,
depending on what
and if the signs aren't there, then that's, that's perfectly fine. If that becomes a problem, that's perfectly fine. But there's also, who's the landscaper, was it R&R? Barrios, that their child is going into kindergarten, and they love the idea. They'd like to be a part of it. So maybe even if the name isn't on it, the fact that their children, their grandchildren are going to benefit from this.
But we're also going to, we're hoping to do some community outreach and some communication about this, maybe getting it into a newspaper, to communicate kind of the improvements that are being made. And this is definitely there's an opportunity. There is something missing, right? These courtyards are used daily by these children. I mean, it's not like it's a corner space that nobody kind of sees and we're just putting some pretty flowers in there. This courtyard is used daily by classrooms. It's used by the science teachers for teaching. It's not, I know you have concerns about the amount of money, but we have this access to this ARPA money right now, and this, in our estimation, is a very good use for it. And it shouldn't be, like Jen was saying, an either or. Now, I understand you guys have had this project with the flag field, but I don't feel like that should compete with the project that we're looking at.
So I was actually just wondering about that. So you're a part of the PTO, but is it the elementary PTO or the town-wide PTO?
The town-wide.
Okay, so what I was thinking is that if you were under the elementary PTO, I was going to ask why, because maybe this is like a town-wide, if you're the Outdoor Learning Alliance, then you're the Outdoor Learning Alliance for everybody, not just for Placentino, and this is just this first project, but that, flag field maybe is the next concern, right? So we start looking at that next, because I know one of the things that I had asked was that, how will this benefit the Miller students, right? Because they're right next door, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but the science teachers do come from both schools to go to here, right? So it is benefiting sort of both of them. Not that the Miller courtyard isn't important, but maybe next is Flag Field, and then maybe next is Miller. And I know the courtyard here has, the SOI involved in that kind of stuff too, so that gets more complicated, but I wanted to check.
Flag is different than a courtyard, though.
But
so I'm saying, it's own. It's not necessarily the middle school property, right, Keith? Am I right?
It's school property.
It's
It is
school property.
The property is still under the care and custody of the schools. I mean, there are some questions about, with the whole downtown sewerage solutions, they were doing some test borings there to see the applicability of possibly using it as a leaching field, which would obviously could hinder any plans there. But again, we're years from that possibility. So.
But even if it's not Flag Field, the need for outdoor learning and fresh air, that doesn't stop after 5th grade, right? So maybe it's new benches or tables, or I don't know. I'm not very
greenhouse,
something like that. So maybe
could that go in a leach field?
It depends. I don't know. It depends on the size of the structure and how much weight it has on the leach field.
I would like to see more teacher involvement in this, and maybe they'd be part of the committee, because around, not just Holliston, I hear teachers say they keep pouring more onto us with curriculum. And we're talking about outdoor learning. I haven't heard teachers come to us and say, we really want outdoor learning. We just want to be mindful that we're not shoving this down their throat.
So, and
I'm very concerned about that as well.
So actually, I met with the teachers last spring, and I talked a lot about my outdoor learning ideas with them, and they said that they loved the ideas, but the problem is they just don't have the staff right now. So, that's something, again, with the volunteers. And I really think that that's what, I mean, I don't want to get into what I talked about with the teachers, but I do understand that they have way too much on them right now and they don't have enough help. And I think that that's where more parent involvement needs to come in, and I think that this will spark that. It already has.
But the teachers that we met with are currently using that space.
District-wide?
No, we're just talking about Placentino right now.
The project, because that's the phase that
I
we're
understand what I'm
in.
talking about. If you're growing this, we have to look at this from a K-12.
Exactly, well, yeah, and then for each school. So if we go, I mean, the flag field, we'd look at the plan that the students have already and then develop it. But, you know, if we're looking at this courtyard out here, then we talk to the students, we talk to the teachers, we find out what they need. What would work for you, what wouldn't work for you? What do you want? Do you not want an outdoor classroom because that would be terrible and you just want this to be a nice space for kids to go during study hall?
So
Then we could do that.
Again, the project at Placentino started with just 2 parents noticing that it could use some improvement, you know, and I feel like a lot of committees are always saying there's stuff, they're having trouble getting volunteers to do stuff. Now you have people here who are volunteering their time, who have put a lot of time into this and saying, I will find funding for this, I will help, and I will make something better, you know. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to help. There's an opportunity here. These courtyards need some attention.
Yeah.
And we are presenting a solution that we would like to help with. We are volunteering to do this. We are trying to help. Sorry, I think Amanda had her
This is
hand
just
up.
a quick point of information. Sorry if this sounds off topic, but last year volunteers in schools were a problem because of COVID.
Right.
But have those restrictions been lifted, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we have not talked about having that restriction in place
Okay, so
this
that's a
year.
question for another time.
Well,
Okay, so hopefully
So
like in Montessori or whatever, like when parents could just sign up to come and do an outdoor lesson or something,
Yeah.
supposedly maybe that would be more of an option for those teachers this year.
And the volunteering we're talking about is putting in the garden, actually
Yeah.
physically.
But I'm saying as
putting
far
it
as
in the garden,
maintaining it.
and then
and
maintaining
stuff.
it, which the scouts would come on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And weed or maintain or replant and stuff like that. So that's the volunteering that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So this reminds me a little bit about when I worked at a low-income school, and I was a teacher there for 10 years, and the playground became very unsafe and deplorable, but there were no district funds available. So the principal took it upon and got all of us as teachers. We came out on a Saturday. My husband bought, 20 wheelbarrows, and he came out, and then he donated them back and let people buy them to give money back. So we cleaned up mulch. We got a lot of volunteers, but a lot of it was staff. And then the long-term plan was, and then the community kept it up year after. They had like an annual community outreach thing. So you probably would want to put something like that in place to have this annual outreach that you get the community to continue this work.
Right.
Yep.
We've talked about that specifically, even having, the parents of the children who would use that space come in, like, and doing the initial planting with their children, to have some connection to the space and having some, some interest in it, obviously.
I mean, to me, this is really exciting because just the idea of having a garden around a school, even though my kids are out of it, I think it's beautiful. And if we can extend it to other schools eventually, I know you're just starting, but it's a start, and I think that really excites me. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
There's a lot of work, I know.
I'm going to sound like a broken record because I think I said this in the spring, but I know when the Wellness Council was active before the pandemic, we for a couple of years we talked about stuff like this, and our group was a broad cross-section of the community. We had staff members, we had a lot of parents, we had administrators. It was a really robust Wellness Council, and this was something more outdoor learning space, getting kids outside more, having kids feel more just connected to nature was a huge topic for us. And we just never got to the point where we had a committed group of people who were ready to run with it. We just didn't have, there was no resource. Right. But it was something that was, so high on everyone's list from what I remember those years working. So I just want to thank you for coming forward and
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
are we doing this.
So what we are asking for today is a vote of support that we can take to ARPA, because that will be our next
Okay. I just wanted to remind you guys that when I spoke with you and Kasha initially, that for you to come to ARPA, and when you come to ARPA, they're going to ask you whether you have any other funding sources, or if you've researched any funding sources or applied for any other grants and things like that. And if you haven't done that, you're going to slow down your process, because you're going to need to do that.
And we have. A lot of the funding sources, for example, like Lowe's has donations and things like that. They want to see that we needed to become a committee, basically, the PTO, to have, some official way for them to make those donations. Also, Whole Foods does the same thing. Whole Foods has a great program where they invest into gardens for schools. And
But
stuff
like
like
Mass
that.
Cultural Council and things like that, I think Dr. Cuska must have forwarded that. Did you forward that one on to them?
I think I did. Did I
I don't
forward it to
remember.
Kasha? I thought I
Did you
did.
lose to Kasha?
I'll double check.
We can
my
double
emails,
check,
but-
yeah.
Okay.
But we do. We've reached out to a number of organizations looking for additional funding to supplement this project. But a lot of them needed to have some, we needed to have some official standing, not just necessarily parents.
And your ARPA request will be for more than just Placentino? Is it for Placentino and work on flag? How is it written right now? Because once this project's done, what is the funding source for the next project?
It's a great question. So right now, we're just asking for Placentino, because that is what we're willing to commit to right now. That is what we've researched. That's what we have the support of the superintendent as well. Because we have the detailed plan for that. We don't know what the other schools would be, because we haven't even looked into those yet.
Is there any flexibility in your plan where you could include both Placentino and the start of a flag program, and then look to reduce any of the costs at all associated with your Placentino program through donations, through other grants, in some way, so that there's still a funding mechanism, some beginning of it, for flag? And if you don't use it, like you said, to your point, it would go back to the ARPA funds. But
think that the-
can you amend it so that you're looking at that you include flag? Is there any, would that change your recommendation or your opinion on it at all, if they were to include?
I would just want more information as to whether we can
Can do that?
do work over there. I just don't know the answer to that. I mean,
Okay.
Keith
And I think
saying
that
it is our
that's-
land, but
And that's what we talked about in the meeting, or what you said in our meeting, was that this is what we have detailed plans for. This is what we have a concrete idea for. Everything else is a little bit, it's theoretical at this moment. I mean, I learned about Flag Field from you guys. I haven't met with the students. I have no idea how far they went in their plans. We don't know if it's going to become a leach field. I mean, there's so many unknowns in that I feel like that would almost compromise our plan right now, because it would add a lot of unknown to it. The ARPA funds are available until '24, so I'm comfortable with going back and asking for more. As I said, I would really love it if this $14,000 was able to really just start this, and then, as you said, we get the donations, and that we go to ARPA and say, okay, can we use this for this next phase, which we now have concrete plans on. And once we get this going, then we'll be ready to take, if you want it to be Flag Field, then great. We'll get the ARPA funds secure, and then we'll go attack the Flag Field. Hands are going up.
I think having hopefully demonstrated success with this first project would bolster our ability to ask for additional funds.
To secure more funding, yeah.
I wonder, are you prepared to commit to having an open mind about making more steps after this? That as we look forward, that this isn't a one and done. This is an outdoor learning alliance for the district, not just for the courtyard.
It is an outdoor learning alliance for the district. Our first project is,
Can you please make sure that you do all of it at once. I'm just kidding. No, I get that. I know that you have to do one at a time, but I think what I'm hearing and what I also feel is like, we need some sort of assurance that this isn't it, that you're like, that you see this as step one, and that was what I was kind of saying about like middle school is next because Miller gets, and I know I can't run your committee from here, I'm not trying to, but that this isn't it. Like this is commitment to outdoor learning, whether it's on Flag Field or whether it's that like cute little inlet thing in the back of Rams. You're like, we could use our outdoor spaces better. And two things. One, I feel better now that you're part of the PTO because the PTO has such a long-standing, solid relationship with the schools, with the teachers, with the with parents. That's their massive distribution lists, and that the way that this will go forward is going to be a collaborative and communicative process.
Right.
So I feel a lot better now that you guys are under that.
Right, so like if we age out of the schools, there will be more people coming up with children in the school systems who will be interested in continuing.
Right,
work.
but also to some of the concerns about working with teachers, like the PTO already does that really well. And, they bring in the culture connection, and, they do so much that it's just those lines of communication are already there.
Yeah.
So that's great. And so that makes me feel better. And I think I want to hear, and I think maybe other people want to hear too, like this project and then something. And it's helpful to hear you say yes to that because I think that's part of what is maybe the unknowns are made a little bit easier to swallow if we can hear you say that this isn't just a one and done.
Yeah, it's.
Sorry, Amanda and then Lisa.
I was just maybe Lisa. I was just going to say, it sounds like anytime something starts, it's we don't always know what's going to happen in the next 10 years, but it sounds like you have a lot of mechanisms in place to ensure that it keeps going, to ensure that those next steps are taken. And I feel ready to make a motion to support it.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Speaking of mechanisms, so ARPA funds are use it or lose it, right? By the end of fiscal year 2024?
That's our understanding.
September 24.
September of 2024. So I think we just need to have some kind of check-in, maybe every 6 months or something, we get an update on where the budget stands, because I think we just want to make sure that if that money is just sitting there, we want to be thoughtful about how it gets used, because we don't want to lose it.
Right.
I'm thinking best case scenario, you guys end up getting just a ton of donations.
Yes,
And
that
you
is
don't-
the bit. Yeah.
And you don't need as much money. I want to just make sure we don't lose that money.
And
Right.
again, the price tag on this project is us doing our best guess at estimating what it would cost, doing our research. We had, a number of organizations contribute and help us plan it. But that's the full retail price of this, not with no in-kind donations and
Right.
and assuming all of the work we're paying for the labor. So we had to estimate it that way because we can't make
Yeah, and that makes
assumptions.
total
We can't
sense.
make assumptions.
I just want to make sure we don't lose the ARPA money.
Yes.
I want to make
So-
sure it goes to something.
Just with the mechanism part. So right now there's a lot of energy. It's a new thing. Everybody's coming in. How are you planning to keep up the volunteering sign up going? How are you reaching out to the parents, and what are the things that you're doing to basically let the community know this is going? Or suppose if you need more parents in Rams or when you come to high school, how are you planning to reach out?
So that's part of the reason that we're part of the PTO. The PTO already has that platform that we're talking about, for
The reason I ask is that because I know that many of these associations lately have been struggling to get volunteers. Ever since they have said that ever since the paper copies went out and it became digital, it has been very hard for them to get volunteers. So right now I know that you are covered for say 2 years. I know that you are committed for a longer time. But as things keep going and they are not new anymore, just when the maintenance part comes in, people tend to to drop out and not basically be somebody else's umbrella. So you see a fall in that volunteering this thing. So is there any thought that has gone into long-term volunteering commitments or something that has been discussed at all?
I think that just as this gains momentum and as we take on more and more projects and as we get more and more ideas, because right now we're kind of talking about 5 things, right? We're talking about the 4 courtyards and then Flag Field, but there's a lot of other ideas going on in my mind. I'm sure that other people will have ideas. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I've been thinking about reaching out to Park and Rec, looking at maybe unused areas that they have. Are there other areas that can be improved? Along the rail trail, and even though you might not be able to use it during the school hours, that's why I'm saying, reaching out to Park and Rec. So I really hope that this gains a lot of momentum and that it goes beyond the courtyards, beyond Flag Field, and really becomes like a community alliance.
And we've talked about it with the PTOs having it be like an annual thing to have parent volunteers all come in and maintain it on it, having it be a community event.
And with the Boy Scouts, I mean the letter from the Boy Scouts, they're committed, and they're not going anywhere.
So that's what so Boy Scouts would be one of the ways, and the PTO would be the other way that you would be reaching out to parents, those who would be interested to sign up.
So we have Cub Scout commitment. I don't want to say Boy Scouts because we have Cub Scout commitment.
Okay,
and they're very committed. They state in their letter they've been around for 75 years, so they're not going anywhere. So, yes.
I mean, this was brought up before in terms of if you can get companies to donate and whether we would agree to a small placard. How has this been done before? We need to give school committee approval. So assuming a motion is coming forward, looking for our support, would we, Keith and Susan, deferring to you, would we also within that agree that we would allow like a small donation placard up to 6 inches by 7? I mean, how has this worked before? So that we could encourage the donation of funds and materials. Because I'd like to see this project expanded beyond just Placentino. So I want to preserve those funds and use donations as much as possible. Do you have any advice on how we would go about kind of signaling our support for that?
The 2 major projects that we had donation recognition for, we knew exactly what we were getting in advance. So we knew we had a mock-up of the scoreboard with the business names were going to be. We had a mock-up of the floor showing us what the tiles were going to look like. So it was not amorphous in any way, shape, or form. It was very specific. So that would be my recommendation to you, to make sure you know specifically what you're getting yourself into, knowing how many. We also knew how many. Again, it was late. It was completely laid out. You may say you'll give a 6 by 6 thing, but you could end up with 100. I know you won't get 100. Maybe you'd like to get 100. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to make it, if you want the decision now, if you want to make that vote now, you're going to need, I think, more information.
Okay.
I think the area that I could see potentially becoming a problem is, this may not be the right example right now, but let's just say a cannabis company wanted to donate something and then have their placard. Even though it's legal, is that something you'd want on school grounds? You'd have to, you know what I mean? So you might have to have some policy as to what types of things are allowable, because otherwise you become open-ended, and then there may be something that doesn't represent the ideals of the population, and you have to be careful about that.
I was going to say, Amanda wanted to make a motion, and I looked at her and I said, you make sure, because I'll make the motion if she doesn't, that it is 0 cost to the school district. I think we need something specific but vague enough that basically just gives them the support so they can go to ARPA. But then I think anything moving forward, so it could be a motion, we support you in going to ARPA for funds, and then if you get funds, we need to have a conversation.
Sure. Meaning,
about plaques and.
So it, only if it gets to plaques or something that would impact,
Probably an update of your,
Okay.
like, your moving forward, like what your
Okay.
process is now that you have it, like when's it going to happen, what do you know,
Could we
just probably when
say,
you're going to do
if
it.
they do anything outside of what they've already shown us, like,
Yes.
then they have,
Okay.
Yeah,
then we need to be
Okay.
made aware?
Mhm.
And that is inclusive of the plaques. Do we have a policy for that? We need to write a policy
don't
for that?
We
believe-
have the policy on gift giving.
We do.
Right.
I think we
That-
might have
that-
something
That's
for
through
sponsorship.
you.
Don't we have something for sponsorship too? I feel like we did have something.
Actually, we don't.
No.
We don't have anything, we don't have an advertising policy. You have a policy on distribution of materials.
Right.
Which can't
Oh,
be data collection,
right.
things, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But to have many districts do have an advertising policy. It's in the
We
K
should look into
range,
that then.
so.
So probably look in Masper and see what they
Yeah.
have.
Could it be that the placards could be limited to maybe, say, 48 hours, and
Well-
there couldn't be more than 3 placards at a
Well,
time?
I think I think it's,
That's
it's
later. Yeah.
we're giving them support to go to ARPA to ask for the funds.
Right.
Yeah.
And then reconvene when you've actually gotten the funds. ARPA may say, we'll give you 2, we'll give you 10, like,
Right. A
so
lot of
why
things can
don't we
happen.
just give it, give them, we vote to give them, make a motion to support the OLA to go to the ARPA committee for funding, with the stipulation that the OLA comes back to the school committee once ARPA has made a decision.
That sounds perfect. I'll second that. Sorry, Amanda, you want to make it? I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
Amanda, you second that.
Okay, thanks.
So Stacey, is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Amanda second.
Sorry, Amanda.
All in favor? Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to having you guys back.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. So, let's just go back up to the top for a second and do the consent agenda. Anybody have any questions or comments on that part?
We need to move the minutes aside because they're messed up. So we need to review those again next meeting.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion for the consent agenda with the exception of, A.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Carries. All right. Communications. Anybody have individual comments? Stacy?
So welcome back, everybody, although it's not really welcome back till next week, and I'd be sitting at the beach if I didn't have to be here, so. Welcome back next week. We're excited for the senior class. They are hosting a fundraiser this Sunday, October
28.
August 28th, from 11 to 3 at Holliston High School. Food trucks, inflatables.
They had me at food trucks.
And I have to say, this, this class impresses me. This was done by the students, so come on down and enjoy and have fun. And just welcome back, and thank you to, the administration for all their work over the summer. Hope you had some time to relax at some point.
Thanks. Dawn?
And in addition to the Class of 23 food truck fundraiser event, there's a Muffin Meadow contest, which I guess they've brought back. This was done decades ago. Amanda, maybe you can tell us
The
about
meadow
that.
muffin?
Yes.
Yeah, you buy a square and a cow walks all over the
It's a
field
Kentucky thing.
in all of the squares, and whichever square he chooses to do some business in, he gives you a meadow muffin.
And you win.
And whoever has bought that square wins $1,000.
Yes.
What
So,
field?
The
these-
turf,
the
no.
grass-
I made sure it was not the turf.
It's actually where Beans lives. They're not doing it on the school property, they're doing it where Beans lives.
Checking.
It goes like athletic field.
Not the turf.
And
Because they haven't rented it, so they can't do it.
I've never heard that expression in the
hadn't heard
And the
it until
tickets
this
sold
year.
out, so you already lost out, you can't buy
All right,
stuff
well-
unless you bought.
Great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what day is the
it is
Cougar Bun?
on Sunday
This Sunday.
This Sunday, okay.
This is happening at noon.
So there's a cow going to be
Beans
going
cow, but
A real cow.
They do it with the chickens, too.
someone gets $1,000 cash.
That is so
HMAPA,
Make it easier to do with chickens.
just an
Smaller,
HMAPA
that's for
update,
sure.
the fall high school musical is Pippin. There's an audition workshop September 8th and September 9th, followed by auditions September 12th and September 13th.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? All right. We do not have anybody signed up for public comment. We've done our presentations. Okay, so policy?
Yep, we got a million of them to go through, so buckle up. So the first policy on here is BB, which is school committee legal status. I know it says non-substantive change, but the change is that apparently in going through our books, it doesn't look like it was ever approved. So I guess we're just going to have to start doing a first reading on it. I don't know if we can waive the second and third. I mean, we've been doing it, I suppose, it's just our legal status, but.
Okay.
So, and Amanda, we'll tag team through, there's a whole bunch of that we have to read, but I'll just start with the first ones. So, town bylaws provide that the town shall have a school committee consisting of 7 members elected for a term of 3 years each, and so elected that the term of no more than 3 nor less than 2 shall expire in any 1 year. The school committee is the governing body of the town's public school system. Although it functions as a duly elected committee of town government, the school committee has, unlike other town boards, autonomous and absolute authority within limitations established by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to carry out the educational policies of the state and guide the educational process.
Do you want a motion to approve the first reading of
I don't know if we have to approve the
policy
first reading.
BB? I don't know.
We have to approve it. Does anybody have any questions or comments about it? We can waive I mean, we
Waive the second and
typically
third
do, don't waive the second and third, but for this one, I feel like I would, if people don't have any questions about it. It's pretty bare bones.
Any questions?
Okay.
So I'll move to waive the second and third reading of school committee legal status policy BB.
Second. Amanda.
Moved by Stacy, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carries.
Thank you. Do you want to read the next one, Amanda?
Yep, should we do GBEA?
Yes, please.
Okay, so GBEA is the staff ethics conflict of interest policy. So I'm going to read it. The school committee expects members of its professional staff to be familiar with the code of ethics that applies to their profession and to adhere to it in their relationship with students, parents and guardians, co-workers, and officials of the school district. No employee of the committee will engage in or have financial interest in, directly or indirectly, any activity that conflicts or raises a reasonable question of conflict with his duties and responsibilities in the school district. Nor will any staff member engage in any type of private business during school time or on school property. Employees will not engage in work of any type where information concerning customer, client, or employer originates from any information available to them through school sources. Moreover, as there should be no conflict of interest in the supervision and evaluation of employees, at no time may any administrator responsible for the supervision and/or evaluation of any employee be directly related to them. Every 2 years, all current employees, including school committee members, must complete the State Ethics Commission's online training. New employees must complete this training within 30 days of beginning employment and every 2 years thereafter. Upon completing the program, employees should print out the completion certificate and keep a copy for themselves. Employees will be required to provide a copy of the completion certificate to the municipal or district clerk through the superintendent's office. In order to avoid the appearance of any possible conflict, it is the policy of the school committee that when an immediate family member, as defined in the conflict of interest statute, of a school committee member or district administrator is to be hired into or promoted within the school district, the superintendent shall file public notice with the school committee and the municipal or district clerk at least 2 weeks prior to executing the hiring in accordance with the law. And we got this from MASC.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Can I just, when it says municipal or district clerk, it means the town clerk of Holliston, right?
Yeah, it
Is
should
that-
probably say town.
It
We
should
don't
say
have a
that.
district. Is there any appetite for just
Yeah, we can just change it to
striking
town.
or district and
Yep.
make it municipal or just
Yeah.
town clerk?
The reason it says district is because it's the general policy for regional school
Right.
districts, because they are their own
Right.
legal entity.
Can I
So
do
But
that
we
for
could,
Cynthia?
we should still
You
adjust
can, I'm
it.
just
you could say
writing it
town clerk or
down.
municipal clerk,
Yeah.
either, that is fine.
Okay.
Again, district clerk doesn't exist.
Right, so let's get rid of or district.
Where are we?
Down at the very bottom, I have it.
It's at
last
least
sentence.
two, it's in at least 2 or 3 places.
I can do it right here, or get rid of. Oops,
Or you change it to
I
town
know.
clerk. They're saying change to town clerk.
okay, then we're suggesting.
We usually
Clerk.
keep things consistent too and say like HPS. I feel like there's,
Yeah.
I feel like some of these changes did
Well,
not
it wouldn't
take,
be
come in here.
HPS town clerk, it would just be
No,
Holliston
I mean,
town clerk or
farther up, like we say like the
Holliston
Holliston School Committee.
We say
and
school
then-
committee, we usually say Holliston School
Right.
Committee.
The-
And there's a he that should be a they.
It says there on my copy, I don't know why it doesn't say it.
Which one? Where are we?
In the second paragraph, second sentence. Well, it's the first sentence, but second line, it says at the very end, question of conflict with their duties and responsibilities. You already have it, but hers didn't have
Yeah,
it.
but mine must be an earlier thing.
Is it not showing the,
No.
okay, I just printed what was on the,
No, this is from the folder we got.
okay.
I don't know, this is the one in the folder, so I don't know
This is what I
what.
got.
This is from the August 25th folder.
Huh.
So we need to have a second reading on this,
Yeah,
correct?
we do.
I did want, one thing I was noticing, because I've had this in other districts, and it says that I need to file public notice with the school committees. The school committee member would have to notify me in order for me to do that. How would I know? So there, my recollection is that the school committee member, as part of ethics, they're supposed to notify the superintendent, and then, because I can't disclose it if I don't know. I can't file it.
Yeah, that's weird.
It isn't weird.
It's weird going kind of down the org chart to go.
Right. I thought it was
the
actually the
town
school
clerk.
committee member
Right.
themselves are supposed to notify publicly, like they would announce it to the rest of the school
Well,
committee.
you signed that thing
The
every year.
non-disclosure, I mean, the conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Well, it says the school committee member or district administrator had, it says that the school committee is supposed to. Hold on.
Right, if it's an immediate family member of yours,
Yeah, it
I
should
can
be the
see-
school committee member is supposed to advise you, okay.
right, I would need to be advised by the administrator
Yeah.
or the school committee member.
Okay, we'll wordsmith that.
That or they should maybe go directly to the town clerk.
It almost seems like it should be the member themselves that has to disclose.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly don't know
Let's
which
think
is
about this
best.
for the next time, because I,
Yeah, I'm just making a note of it.
If it went direct, I mean, the town clerk swears them in, so would she then be in charge?
however, a school administrator wouldn't be the same. They would
No.
notify
No,
me.
right, no, the school administrator would be you, because we report to you.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
So
fine.
for example, if you're hiring my daughter who doesn't exist. you
Not that you know of.
Well, that I should know.
Sure she does.
But, so that you would have to bring it to our notice or file it with the town clerk. Is that what it's
That's the
saying?
question I have, is because how would I know that if you didn't tell me?
Mm-hmm.
So typically, you would notify the town clerk as the member yourself. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, that's what I'm
We might
saying.
need that.
How
Might be
would
the-
you know, right?
You could put the word known into this.
Yeah, I'll check with her. I'm gonna ask her.
Yeah, well,
Sorry, this is the first reading, that's why we're asking
Yep.
these questions. Does anybody have any other notes for us?
This is great work you guys did this summer. Was this from the summer or was this from?
Some of it was from before we met over the summer.
June 13th, I think we did, and then revised.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hammered it a lot that
July
day.
21st. We had a couple of really hot sessions.
Yep. So the next one is IGD curriculum adoption. I'm just going to read, it's the first reading, so I'm going to read the whole thing. So the Holliston School Committee relies on the professional staff to design and implement instructional programs and courses of study that align with Massachusetts Department of Education, that should have been spelled out, sorry, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education state curriculum frameworks, and advances the educational goals of the school district.
I don't think that's the one that we have for some reason.
From the word rely on
IGD?
is different. You said
Yeah.
relies,
He
it's the
said
school
so.
will rely.
When
Yeah, I have revised. It's
I
up on the board right now.
This is what's on the agenda.
Do you see what's on the board?
This is what I posted in the shared folder.
No, the agenda has the links.
I clicked on the agenda and I got this, and it's up there,
Okay.
right there.
I had
I'm
a
pulling from
folder
the shared
in
folder.
our 825 folder, and I think we're going from that folder as opposed to from the links.
I went from the link
Yeah,
that
I'm going with the
Lisa, this is
links.
why I told Lisa that she needed to put it into a folder.
I'm not sure.
So,
Anyway, I went from the link.
Links in the actual agenda are this,
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
revised.
so this is her first time, so
Yep,
that's why I
so we're
asked her
just
to look at
gonna-
the agenda, but
Yeah.
I will help her.
But it's
We
up
have
on
it.
there.
This is great.
What I'm reading is up there.
It was easier to have it in the agenda.
I know, it's nice links in the
I
agenda.
did-
So everyone go from the
Agenda,
links in your
that's the same
agenda.
one.
Right,
This isn't-
and then it's supposed to be in a folder
understand, but I'm in-
where it's normally housed, because when you click on that, it doesn't tell you where it is. So like later, I'd have to go back and figure out where it is, so it needs to be back in
So the ones in the folder
shared
are
folder,
not
but,
edited.
correct. But if you went from the agenda and clicked from there, or, I'm sorry, from your calendar and went from there, you find it. Okay, so is everybody on the same page now? Okay. Just look at what's on the screen, thank you. Advance the educational goals of the school district. The superintendent or their, designee will have authority to approve new programs and courses of study after they have been thoroughly studied and found to support educational goals. The committee itself will consider and officially adopt new programs and courses when they constitute an extensive alteration in instructional content or approach. The school committee wishes to be informed of all new courses and substantive revisions in the overarching curriculum pursuant to Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education State Curriculum Frameworks. It will receive reports on changes under consideration. Its acceptance of these reports, including a listing of the high school program of studies, will constitute its adoption of the curriculum for official purposes. Any questions? It's a first reading, so
This is an MASC policy that we make up on.
yes.
Have we ever, as a school committee, approved a course? Have we ever?
Not since
approved
ed
a course?
reform,
No, I don't.
No.
I don't
not
think
since
so.
1993.
I can see programs like a French immersion or Montessori or
Yeah.
something new or a different, but why are we putting this out here for, why would we want to approve new courses if we've never done it before?
Well, it's instructional programs, so like we did actually approve having the designation
Right.
for the computer science and also for the, so maybe we don't say courses of study, but
Are we
I
okay
can't
with
really
that?
think of, yeah, I
I
don't,
can't think of a reason why
I can't think of
I would
one.
want
The only, I wonder if they're saying courses of study based on we have programs of study.
Well, I think that's
like
what we were
a
talking
couple-
about.
right, or whether it's, like if we wanted to have an IB program or something like that, that would be a significant
But I
change,
do
right?
think that that can be misleading, and
Yeah,
someone says.
an
"Oh,
actual
so the
class,
school
it's not a
committee's gonna-"
class, it's a
You're right.
course.
We took it in the way that Stacy is saying.
Right.
Yes,
So new
but you're right, we
programs-
might have to be more specific.
new programs and courses of study, but even that is ambiguous, right? We don't approve courses.
No,
We leave
not a
that to-
particular
We're not
class.
talking about the particular class.
Right.
It's more like we are using this course program to now teach English,
Can we
science.
put an example in there to clarify a little bit?
You might want to just take that out though.
Yeah.
We talked about this in great length.
We did actually,
Right, because
yeah.
we really wanted to be clear that we were not
Right.
responsible for approving, I want to teach Catcher in the Rye instead of Great Gatsby.
Exactly,
or things
that's
like
too
that.
granular,
So we talked about that one sentence quite a lot.
micromanaging.
And we
Right.
also talked about the extensive alteration, had to be like a huge
Right,
change.
that's what we were saying, it has to be
Shows
something really.
overarching
Yes,
to
that's what-
mean like
yes. Mm-hmm.
across courses, across units.
Yeah.
But if maybe someone could suggest something more clear, because we had a big discussion about
Maybe if we just
Yeah, we
put
had
all
a
courses,
huge
we did
discussion.
talk
I'm
about that.
okay taking out courses because I think it's too.
You want it gone?
It makes
Okay.
people think of courses.
Right.
But
I think you might want a
programs
different
encapsulate
word.
course of study.
I don't know what that word
Well, I
is.
feel like when we say in programs, so like if we decide we're gonna do like Wilson reading or whatever. that's a
Joni, say that
program.
again, I didn't hear
I
you.
think you need a different word other than courses to go to Don's point, because I think people automatically think of a class, right?
Right,
And
that's what
that's
I'm saying,
not
just
what we're
remove it.
talking about.
Jimmy, do you think programs encapsulates what you're referring to as like course of study or a certain approach on something without confusing people that we approve courses? Could we just say programs?
I'm not sure. I guess we were thinking of it as it would have to be something that's not offered right now and it's
Right.
unique. And the reason why we left it was because there could be a monetary cost related to the budget, and that's why if somebody just says, hey, I'm going to start offering this, but we don't have funding for it, so there should be some approval process.
Need
were
a
thinking of,
clarification from MASC
Right?
and just say, like share this conundrum with them.
Yeah, but the program that you guys just
do
approved,
you
help me
think?
out, what's the program that?
Global,
Correct.
Global
That's what we were referring to
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Or if you
right?
wanted
That's
to do
what
a
we're-
Spanish immersion program, that would be a significant.
That's a program, though.
I know
That's
that, but I'm
okay,
just
yeah.
saying.
Say
Correct.
programs and endorsements, since our global citizens endorsement and our computer science endorsement, we
Is there
refer
anything
to
that
as
would-
endorsements.
I'm trying to think if it'd be anything else.
You know, I mean, I guess
When it
we
says
can leave it,
course-
and then we could always revise later if we think it doesn't
So,
fit something.
Amanda, help me out with that. So if we are putting in courses with the detail, the devil is in the detail, what issues are we looking at?
To put in a new course?
Yeah, so for example, if we have to say there's a course and then we have to approve of it, what are we actually looking at?
They're not approving a course, though, that's what we're trying to say.
That's what we're saying,
Yeah,
we're not approving
Yeah,
schools.
I don't
Right.
Yeah,
The
you want to
programs
go
might
on
cover
with
us
that,
then.
right?
Well, Cynthia, I suggest, can you write down endorsements, and I will do some digging before our next policy meeting
Yeah.
and try to come up with a different, ask some of my colleagues.
Do you want to put endorsements for now, though?
Right,
Yeah.
And you
right,
can
just,
call Glenn and say, what did you mean by that?
yeah, I
Or
can find
whoever wrote
out.
it. Well, he's the one who pops up to mind because he
Yeah.
answers the phone.
Okay.
Okay.
You also still have, the high school program of studies on this as well. In the next paragraph.
Oh, yeah. It
Which-
says these reports,
which gets a
including a
lot close- Which
listing.
gets pretty close to courses as well, so, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're just asking for a list, though we're not asking to get into details of the courses, just the course offerings, right?
These reports, including a listing.
Yeah, it says courses of study up above, right?
it's acceptance.
Yeah.
No, but look, it says informed of all new
Yeah,
courses.
Yeah.
informed is
It's
fine.
not approval.
Right, it's just informing us.
That's right. And I know, like, as a high school principal, I had to do that.
Right. I think that's fair.
Because I had to say what
Including-
courses I was eliminating and what courses I was adding.
To the school committee?
Yes.
Okay.
But it was just
We-
information, they
In the
didn't get a
program
vote
of
on
studies,
it.
you know?
That has not been the practice here.
It hasn't.
I had to do
could
that every
see- I
year.
could see some level, like being informed of it, and receiving reports on changes is important, but I don't know that we have to approve it. or
Correct,
that
that's what I'm
we're-
saying, it's just a report out.
It's-
Keith, we didn't approve, but I remember Paula O'Brien sitting right there sharing the new social sciences classes, because I remember one of them was about women in,
And that was a major change as opposed to talking about, we're going to offer, English 10 and English 10A.
Right, that's what I think we want here, is it's something that is not currently offered, that's really unique and above
Right,
and
a
beyond.
substantive change.
Well, how about of all substantive,
in new, or in,
new and substantive?
It's, new could be a new, again, that English 10A, because we have children who can't take honors, but they're better than CP1, and we do some other thing. I'm just,
No, that's right.
Yeah,
Aren't you informed of the program of studies every year? I thought you were, right?
no.
So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're not?
so I have a
Where I
question.
came from, I had to do that
I'd
too.
like to be.
Yeah, so for example, if we
I feel like we've
introduce,
done.
if you introduce, decide to introduce a course on, say, the Chinese language, would that be something that we would be, that you would just come and, you would just inform us that you are starting? Am I correct?
That's what this is saying.
Right? So,
Well, do you want me to add a substantive change here?
There must be a reason why it was recommended that we at least be informed of new or substantive
Yeah,
changes
it's
in
about,
courses.
it's accountability, and
Right.
that's what it's about.
I
So
think,
people were saying that we're being informed rather than we're not being informed of it. So it's really just,
Do it at the end
just
of the
letting
meeting.
us
Wait,
in.
could we do an annual,
So it
we
moves
could put
along.
an end of year?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't have to be like a concept, it could be like,
Yeah.
the program of studies is only put out at the high school once a year. It's like in
I
January.
think we
So
should go
that's
back to
it.
MASC and let Joni do
yeah,
her
I think
research.
it's
fine.
not the end of the world, but
Okay.
We're arguing
It's not a
over.
big deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
I mean, Keith, I totally appreciate your point, and I apparently misunderstood why Paula O'Brien was telling us about those schools.
It was because it was completely different. They're completely reworking the social studies curriculum at that time, changing the sequence of when they were going to do modern world versus U.S. history versus, it was that whole piece of changing the alignment of those courses. That's what that was about.
There's a lot of new policies around accountability
Tired
and
70 years ago.
making sure that the school committee is informed, because there's financial policies, a whole bunch of, and this is just one of them, where it's more just, they're reporting out to us so that we're made aware of it. We're not just like left to imagine. So, okay.
I need more meetings.
Okay, that can be arranged, Mr. Boudet. All right, do you want to read the next one? It's really long.
Hi, Mama. Is this a new one?
Yeah. This, oh, no, sorry, this
No,
one is not. This one is just a non-substantive change. I don't know why it was brought, it shouldn't have been on here. It was really just a name change. It's called
Right.
parental notification, and it was actually, the code letter was incorrect. There's no B in HAMA. There's no
Do
B.
we know why they struck guardian from the title, where it used to be parent/guardian notification, now it just says parental notification? When
I don't know why they changed that. That's what they changed it.
Both are being notified. Is there a reason? Or can we?
We can add that.
change that again?
We can.
Yeah, parental/guardian, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's their naming of it. Cool, so now we've renamed it. Okay, that was, again, not, we don't have to vote on that, it was just not really a substantive change. Okay, now you can read the next one if you want.
Okay, so I can, so now we're, the
next
next, so
one
we're doing
is-
harassment of students,
Yep,
which is, we agreed was a first reading.
it is. Oh, so down the bottom, it says
Yeah.
that there was a first reading, March 10th, 2022. That did not occur. So you can ignore that. This is the first reading.
So this is our first reading.
Yep.
All right, so this is JICK harassment of students. And it goes as following. Harassment of students by other students, employees, vendors, and other third parties will not be tolerated in the Holliston Public Schools. The alleged harassment must involve conduct that occurred within the school's own program or activity, such as whether the harassment occurred at a location or under circumstances where the school owned or substantially controlled the premises, exercised oversight, supervision, or discipline over the location or participants, or funded, sponsored, promoted, or endorsed the event where the alleged harassment occurred against a person in the United States. This policy is in effect while students are on school grounds, school district property, or property within the jurisdiction of the school district, school buses, or attending or engaging in school-sponsored activities. Harassment prohibited by the Holliston School District includes, but is not limited to, harassment on the basis of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, disability, age, genetic information, active military or veteran status, marital status, familial status, pregnancy or pregnancy-related condition, homelessness, ancestry, ethnic background, national origin, or any other category protected by state or federal law. Students whose behavior is found to be in violation of this policy will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including suspension or expulsion pursuant to disciplinary codes. Employees who have been found to violate this policy will be subject to discipline up to and including termination of employment, subject to contractual disciplinary obligations. Employee-to-student harassment means conduct of a written, verbal, or physical nature that is designed to embarrass, distress, agitate, disturb, or trouble students when submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly a term or condition of a student's education or of a student's participation in school programs or activities, or submission to or rejection of such conduct by a student is used as the basis for decisions affecting the student. Student-to-student harassment means conduct of a written, verbal, or physical nature that is designed to embarrass, distress, agitate, disturb, or trouble students when such conduct has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with a student's performance or creating an intimidating or hostile learning environment. Harassment as described above may include, but is not limited to, written, verbal, or physical, including texting, blogging, or other technological methods, harassment or abuse, repeated remarks of a demeaning nature, implied or explicit threats concerning one's grades, achievements, or other school matter, demeaning jokes, stories, or activities directed at the student. By law, what constitutes harassment is determined from the perspective of a reasonable person with the characteristic on which the harassment is based. Individuals should consider how their words and actions might reasonably be viewed by others. The district will promptly and reasonably investigate allegations of harassment through designation of Title IX coordinator or building-based employees, who may include principals or their designees. The superintendent will recommend, in consultation with the principals, opportunities to the designated recipients for appropriate training. Where it is determined that discrimination or harassment has occurred, the district will act promptly to eliminate the conduct and will impose developmentally appropriate disciplinary, restorative, and/or corrective action. The district will respond promptly and reasonably investigate allegations of sexual harassment through designation of the Title IX coordinator or building-based employees to any reports or complaints of discrimination, including harassment and retaliation or other violations of civil rights, pursuant to our detailed response protocol. Where it is determined that discrimination or harassment has occurred, the district will act promptly to eliminate the conduct and will impose developmentally appropriate disciplinary, restorative, and/or corrective action.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Anything that, like, school districts needs to be changed to HPS?
Developmentally appropriate.
My only question was about how it says in the United States,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we just talked about having a program in France. So do we need to take that out, or can you take that out?
I mean, I don't really understand why it's there.
I don't either. I think it's because it was like from one of our legal.
I just don't know what our jurisdiction would be in the other country.
But if we have
But if
a,
it's a school,
It's a school program.
exactly, if we have a school,
They went to Canada to
Yeah.
go play hockey.
Yeah.
right, so if
No
it's
way
like
games
between
Canada.
student and student while they're in France. do we
Or
just-
Canada.
Or Canada, yeah, I mean, like, I think,
So what do you want to put?
Just strike.
I think we just strike the United States.
What about where it says harassment of students by other students, employees, vendors? Would we consider after vendors saying volunteers and other third parties? I know it's somewhat encapsulated with third parties, but I'd like to specifically put volunteers. Is that okay?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Where exactly do we see that?
On the
Sorry.
first line,
Oh, after
midway
vendors.
through, after vendors, comma, volunteers.
It's the
Okay.
person associated with that.
And
This is from the United States part was weird, but I think that's part of the legalese that the attorney over there.
Amanda, what did you just put?
Nothing, because I'm not suggesting, so could you do it?
Yeah,
So
tell me what you
after
wanted.
Vendors.
Yep.
Right
Just
there
put
where the cursor
volunteers.
is, put comma volunteers. Thanks.
And then every place that says school district should say HPS, but that's okay. We'll change that later. Anybody have any questions about the substance at all? Okay. Moving on, again, first reading. Next up is, well, what's JJ doing?
I have it. Want me to read
Oh,
it?
yeah, it's not, it needs, if there's a non-substantive change, it doesn't really need to be on here, but I don't know what I'm trying to look at what's up.
So the
What it
change,
was.
yeah, so this was student
Oh, I
athletic
know, right.
activity and performing arts fees. And we talked about making it very clear about the cap.
Although, I don't know why, but it should say per year on here. It doesn't say that. Well, it says annually overall, but I feel like it should still say it again.
Yeah.
Where do you want it?
So
So
right
where we have HPS has established, where it's highlighted, HPS has established a per-school cap for athletics of 5 fees per family, but it should say per year. I know the whole thing is supposed to be annual, but like, I think that might get lost in it. I feel like it needs to be repeated.
Do you need the per school though? Because that makes it sound like,
Yeah, because it's the high
Yeah.
school and Rams.
If you have 5 kids in the high school and 5 kids in Rams
Yeah.
at the same time, you're paying 10 fees. Or if you have 6 in each, you're paying 10 fees.
That's what you told us,
I
Keith.
think that's our current
Yep,
practice.
that is our current practice.
I actually knew a family once.
okay.
Oops, sorry. I was skipping that. Okay, that was just but this was just a clarification, not a
And it's really
change.
not.
It's not a change, it's just a clarification.
So just amended.
Yep.
So I can leave it as July 21st. And then
So we have to read it.
We don't have to read that, no. Let's see.
school facilities is also non-substantive.
KF, oh yeah, so these last two are just non-substantive changes, so they were changing, KF, use of school facilities. The non-substantive change was changing business manager to assistant superintendent of finance and operations, in keeping with Mr. Boudet's new title,
What is that?
across the whole document.
I don't see
Shouldn't
that,
be in the
though.
document.
It's in it a couple times.
We said superintendent or designee is what we put, because he would be the designee.
Yeah, it says or designate. That still says that.
That's what we edited last time.
Yep,
You want
and
it
then,
changed?
yeah, so we did, some of it was just wording.
Doesn't need to be capital, give me like proper.
That was the only thing. Okay, moving on.
I guess superintendent.
And then, there's one more.
Because the KFP was just the guidelines for the use of
Yes, so the last one was about school.
we always
uses.
do this. It says titles are not capitalized unless they come in front of person's name.
I know, but superintendent is already capitalized in this policy from Mass. This is your old policy.
At least it's
So do you want me to undo it?
No, forget it.
Okay.
I
Make it a
appreciate
point.
your attention to detail.
I hear you.
so.
Thank you. Same thing, so the other non-substantive change was in use of school facilities, KF, whatever.
KFP, so this is just the
Spelled out.
guidelines, which
Yep.
goes along with the previous one.
Correct, and it just lists things like the Holliston organizations such as Holliston Athletic Booster Association. It spells out like what HABA is and what HEF is and all that instead of just saying them. Because it was just saying you had the acronyms without actually spelling them out. I think that was pretty much it.
And then the school facility, no, A,
Why do you need the acronym and it's spelled out?
Because nobody's going to know what HMAPA is.
No, why do you need HMAPA? If you don't use it again in the document, you're creating
I'm
an
just
acronym.
saying what the school facility is.
Oh, you did cross out, you did cross out, I'm sorry.
You get crossed out.
Yeah, no, well, the HEF is not.
Well,
do you want
okay.
half on
I
it?
can cross it off.
I will.
It's not
It
anywhere
was,
else.
I think it was mistakenly not crossed out.
It's not down further below.
Which should
I don't
it
think
be
it
like
is.
such as, but not limited to
Where are you?
school-sponsored organizations such as, but not limited to, like, for example, would the, what were they called, the garden people?
Well, it says that they'll take
PTO.
precedence over.
They're part of the
They're part of
PTO.
PTO.
It
Yeah,
says
so
they'll-
but
Their parent company is the PTO.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be.
We don't want to put it as limited because then people can claim themselves, trust me, when people
Yeah,
use
yeah,
the buildings,
yeah.
everybody's like, oh,
We
no,
just
I
say
did
that-
this for the school, I
we
drive
just say-
past it, don't I get a deal?
Yeah, so we just say that these take precedence over other towns.
But it does say
other
PTO.
towns. It does say PTO.
It does say PTO. So,
Was that not spelled out in that section? If it wasn't, I'll make sure that it is. Okay,
This
I'll
would be
make sure. I don't know
amended.
why, just when the editing gets too many
Do we
hands.
amend it today then, or?
Yeah, parent,
June
teacher.
13th date that we did it. I think it should be June.
Okay,
Try to do
but it
it
should
today.
say parent-teacher organization.
Yes.
It looks like we crossed out all the other things but didn't get written in there. Okay. And I think that's it. Seam.
What about the
AFP.
I just did that one.
AFP?
We did it.
It was the one where I mentioned,
No, the number two's all messed up typing was. There's a word missing. or
sorry.
something like that.
Looking.
oh, it is?
Yeah, at least on the version I have.
Okay.
Yeah, it still is.
What?
Well, you don't have the, number two, the shouldn't be under the number two. and-
Oh, well, that's just, formatting. We'll fix
Okay.
the
We
formatting.
will fix formatting after, yeah.
so Keith,
It's all going to be reformatted.
Keith, I remember we discussed something about, so if there was a group who was selling food on the premises, is there any guideline on that we cover under here, or is it something that you just come up with?
You can't sell school during the school day. You
Can't sell food.
You can't sell food during the school day because you're in competition with the National School Lunch Program, and that's illegal.
No, like if you're renting out to someone and they get a food truck,
If you have to have, you need a permit issued by the Board of Health
so
to
by
sell,
the
to
town.
sell food.
So should it not go in here? Because I don't see that anywhere here.
I didn't, is there something about food in here?
No, there's nothing.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just like, I mean, it doesn't
says it
have to be,
prohibits,
but it doesn't say anything about anything. So, I mean,
Isn't it a law?
Well, this is a procedure, we can adopt any procedure we want through the procedure manual, which I write. So I can certainly add something in there if you'd like about food. I mean, I have to
It
write.
says allow food and drink only in the cafeteria. That's number 11.
Right.
yeah,
That's
sell food
that's
is
not
allowed.
selling. Minnie's talking about actual selling
Selling,
food.
because he
selling.
mentioned that there
Right,
was
you can
some
bring in
group
food all
who
you
came
want.
in and they
You
were
need your own
selling.
list.
So sometimes organizations do that. So they would have like a cash, like they would make small packets and sell out, or
Cash
maybe
bar.
sell water and stuff like that for $1. So they do that. So I got talking to him one day about that. So I
It
was just,
doesn't prohibit that, it just says only in the cafeteria.
Right, so I was saying, I would put that in the procedure
sell it,
manual. I think
yeah.
rather
yeah, so
than
like
getting
it's
tied up
just
in
a
here,
town permit.
it's not a happy place station.
Okay.
I'll ask you offline.
Okay.
I don't want to out anyone.
All right.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
done,
it would
thanks.
be, maybe it would be something that town could
I'm
do.
just, it says allow food or drink only in the cafeteria.
Yep, because we don't allow people in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's,
No.
But people, they sell things outside of
If
that.
they sell things outside of the cafeteria,
In the hallway or whatever you mean.
in the hallway,
Yeah.
then say go into the auditorium.
Right. Interesting.
Is that violating this?
Food in the auditorium is violating it, yes.
Yeah, food in the
It actually says that in the
auditorium.
procedure manual.
Okay.
so
Yeah,
that's what I'm asking, is the procedure manual different from what we are doing right here, correct?
Yes, the procedural manual is, I'll say, not yours. That's our daily procedures that we establish. We talk about things in the procedural manual such as insurance, so that they have to carry insurance so that we're protected. You name us an additional insured, things of that nature. It's much more granular.
Detail.
Exactly.
Okay, got it, all right, so yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on. Any other
So the
questions?
procedure is that, yes, food should be only sold there, but in practice, we know that people are still eating food in the auditorium.
Oh, we'll just shut that down.
But do we even rent the auditorium? I don't know. We don't.
Occasionally, not as much as we used to because of all the problems we've had over the years. And we've also put better equipment in there, so we actually require them to hire one of our own staff members for it.
That's the right way to do it.
And right now, we have no staff members that want the extra money. So it's they don't want to give up a Saturday, and I don't mean Saturday like for an hour, I mean a Saturday to do some of these events, so.
Sorry, it was
It's a
unrealistic to
staff
think this
member
is
or
only
like a
taking 15
kid?
minutes.
Staff member.
Nice, okay.
We've tried kids before, and that didn't work well, so.
Okay, I'm done.
Great. Thank you. That's a ton of work that you all cranked out there, so thank you very much. All right, central office administrators update.
So a couple of quick updates. One of them is that, one of them was related to junior and senior privileges. I know that we had talked about there need to be a procedure in place to make sure that they were going to be signing in and signing out. So they put up QR codes at the doors where the students would be exiting, and they have to use their smartphone to click on the QR code, and then it will sign them out, and then they have to sign back in again. So that's the procedure, and they'll be letting students know on the first day of school during their opening events about that.
Do they need parent permission to do that first?
I thought the way we had left it that they had to opt out of it. They were opted in unless they were opted out. Isn't that how we talked
I
about
feel like
it?
it was supposed to be the other way around. We talked
Okay,
about them being
I don't have the
opt-in.
answer to that, so I'll have to follow up on that.
Everyone has to do a verification every single year. We have to check off 1,000,000 boxes.
Right. Was
They
that
should
one of
be
the
able to check off
boxes we
one more
talked
that
about?
says, yes, I give permission, just like pictures and everything else, and it was not on there.
Can we double check, are you sure? 'Cause
I just did my verification.
I thought that we talked about the seniors were opt-out, and that's why we're doing it the same for the juniors, but I would have to double check on that. I thought that when we had the meeting.
Yeah, I think when the meeting came, my recollection was you did discuss whether opting in or opting out, but I don't think there was anything definitive that was expressed.
I'm expressing that I think that we should have to opt in, particularly if you're a junior, because we are in charge of these students from the time they arrive to the time that they leave.
And local
So
parentheses.
if they're leaving in the middle of the day, we need to know where they are, and parents need to accept that responsibility that they're saying your kid can leave. Sorry, I'm adamant that we should have that.
I
in.
had similar concerns. I voiced my
Okay,
concerns.
Thank you. They can have it. They just have to say yes, that they know they're doing it. That's all.
But the forms have already gone out.
And there
so
wasn't.
So I honestly haven't filled that out yet.
I just did. It's a student verification form. We all have to do them. We're in a meeting, Stacy. It's not summer.
Lisa,
No,
had a
they
question?
asked me if I filled out.
Y'all are gonna laugh at me for saying this, but what, this probably doesn't exist, but what if a kid didn't have a smartphone? How would they?
They could probably go into the office.
I'm sure we can make a provision for those who don't want to use a smartphone
They
to
can have a
manually sign
computer.
themselves out.
Right.
Yeah, they
I
can.
think you could, the person that they're walking out with could probably scan it and then they put their name in too. I would think that it would be set up that
Is
way.
there any kid that doesn't have a smartphone?
Yes, there are.
There probably are, so we need to make sure that they,
I mean, there could be a Chromebook set up in the office, but Keith, can I have you follow up
Just
on the opt-out form and the, since it's a facilities thing?
We used to last year.
Extension is that, holy crud. I wasn't in the first meeting, why am I
They had a
getting thrown into
Chromebook
this?
outside the office last year.
Go
Is
on,
that what it was
whatever
for?
when did you met with, about the,
I did not. I met here. We met here to discuss it.
There was a Chromebook outside the office
There
last
was,
year.
that's why they used
But I
to
don't know
use Chromebook.
what that was for, but.
I never
Well,
could.
maybe it
Maybe
would
that could
just
be the
be
check-in,
something that you
check-out.
print out, like we get when we go pick up the kids from Placentino, we have a QR code. It doesn't have to be big, but you could print it out and keep it in your wallet and just scan it.
Right, but the issue is that they need to do it as they're exiting and
Right.
entering twice.
Yeah.
So they'd have to have something to do it right
Wouldn't
then.
they have it on their ID badge on the other side of it?
Oh, we talked about, we asked about that.
we don't issue ID badges, so.
No, but we asked.
So we could.
We asked on the student ID that they get from,
Life
Pass?
Touch or
Yes, they
whoever
get.
does.
No, it's from
Yeah.
Gianttown,
yeah.
Yeah.
Rich
And I don't
Towers.
know that they were able to do that, so that was their workaround, was having them at the exits and entrances.
And that's fine, as long as we capture the kids who may or may not choose or have the right.
So we can get an answer for the September 15th meeting. Keith will get you.
Thank you.
So are we talking
Thank you,
about
Keith.
kids who will opt out of signing out? Is that what we're doing?
No.
It's a 90-second
And
clause I
then,
had.
and then the other thing I wanted to update on, we had our admin retreat on the 9th, 10th, and
Why
11th,
would
was
we
it?
have them to opt out?
And it was a busy 3 days. We started, you're going to see our brand-new format aligned to the strategic plan. We worked on aligning our district improvement, our district goals right to the strategic plan, our school improvement goals right to the strategic plan. Same format you're going to see, making extra columns, so it's going to be very clean and easy format to follow, and we're going to do a mid-year and an end-of-year assessment, so we're going to give you updates more frequently. So that was a huge change. And we had some legal updates with two of our lawyers, our special ed on a lot of Title IX things and so forth. And then we had Andy Waugh came in. We also had Gary Maestas, who did our strategic plan with us. He came in. He's going to be doing some leadership seminars with us all year through some remaining grant funds that we had. So he's a really good resource, and he's doing 9 4-hour units with us throughout the year with different groups, with principals, with central office. So I think he'll be a really good support group as we move forward into the strategic plan. And then we ended our last day, our second half of the day.
Except.
Oh, we're recalibrating our educator evaluation tool. So we've had 2 sessions now with the Accept Collaborative, doing work with our administrative team, and she'll be working with our teachers on Tuesday for PD, doing a session with them. So we're really trying to align all of this directly to our strategic initiatives. And we ended our 3rd day with bowling at Pins, and the team was, I thought they might think it was silly, but they had a great time. It was just a really good team building. People were very happy to just have time to kind of unwind, and we had 5 teams, and there was a little bit of a competitive group in bowling. I was not competitive, but
Who won?
David Jordan had the highest score.
Of course he
total high. Yeah, there were a few people
He
I had
had
very
the highest
high.
score, but Dan McLeod was very close behind.
Ooh.
Not
And-
Keith?
Damn.
I
Keith
didn't
would
vote.
not play.
I didn't vote.
That's a whole other
Oh,
story.
boy. Oh.
However, I did not know when we chose this that they were 10-pin. I've never done 10-pin before, so I'm only a candle pin person, so it was a little bit of a change for me. But I did increase each time.
It's fine. We should do it too.
It was fun, and they have food, so we were able to have our lunch there as well.
Did you see any kids? Food is good.
I mean, there were kids, but none of our students were
Can you
there.
imagine?
Actually, the school choice kid, remember?
Yes, there actually was
right.
one
Every
student
principal.
with some friends of his that he did see Mr. Jordan and say hello.
The strategic plan looked great. They did a nice job with
They
the
did
final
come out
touches.
nice, thank
So
you,
thank you
yes.
for that. That was great to see.
Have they seen the flipbook yet?
Yes, online.
Oh, good. Okay, check that out. That looks amazing.
Great, yeah.
Susan, you're not good at 10-pin yet.
Yes.
That's right.
Growth mindset.
I
Growth
did
mindset.
I did increase like 27 points
You
by
did.
my 3rd, so that was
Progress.
good.
Growth mindset right
The
there.
weight too that you use.
What's that?
You know, it depends on the weight of the
Yes, I was
ball.
trying out different weights, so my first time, I'm okay with it.
All right. Julie?
Yes. On August 22nd and August 23rd, we had a phenomenal new staff orientation at Miller in the multi-purpose room. We had 37 teachers and peers attend, 15 mentors. Other mentors joined throughout the day. It was a 2-day, and during those 2 days, All of Central was involved. Dr. Kuska came and really kicked it off and talked about embarking on your journey in Holliston, talked about the strategic plan and how we're going to take the journey together on the second day. Dan, Mr. McLeod talked about Arch 1 and Arch 4, 2 different days, and kind of gave them the nuts and bolts about how we technology-wise work in Holliston. They also got their devices. Jess Beatty and myself talked about Arch 3. We really are trying to get across the idea that special ed is not separate. It's included with general ed. We're looking out for all students. So we really talked about teaching and learning together and making sure that we're supporting all students. Jerry L. talked about Arch 2 and caught them up from what we have been doing here since really the work was started right before Jerry L. started, and kind of took them on the journey and talked about common language, so everybody's kind of on the same page with that. Principals were able to do some brief remarks during lunch the first day. I did talk to them about New Teacher Institute. We have 10 days that we'll be meeting throughout the year. Central Admin and myself will be working on that. Both Keith and Cheryl Hull came in and talked about paychecks, personnel, all of those fun things. Keith then did his bus tour. It was a big hit again. And we had TCC, oh, okay. So the bus tour, it was the first time, according to Keith, that it was done in the rain. It was pouring that day, I'm just going to say. And then we had TC Scoops come, and again, it was still pouring, so everybody's getting their ice cream holding an umbrella, but it was good. And they had a lot of opportunities to get to know each other. So we did a lot of icebreakers so that they're comfortable talking to each other when they see each other in school. It's not just about education. They got to know each other personally so they can have that personal connection. But it was very successful. We have a great group of diverse candidates that are coming to Holliston this year. So it was great.
How many were in the group again?
37 new teachers in Paris came. We have hired more since then, but 15 mentors came. Some of the mentors couldn't come to the formal program. They met their mentees later in the day, on the second day.
Yes.
I did forget one thing, if that's all you have.
Yes, I'm done.
Opening day Monday, I did invite you to the 8 to 9:30 block. There is no opening event that's happening on Tuesday, so I'm going to delete that one. We actually changed the schedule around, so what I was going to have you attend, if you could, on Tuesday morning is now shifted to Monday from 8 to 9:30 in that block.
Okay.
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Reports from subcommittees. Communications?
We have not met yet, so nothing to report. Quick schedule meeting.
All right. Policy, I think we couldn't ask a single thing more of you.
Stuff.
Budget?
We had a meeting today. We discussed FY22 and 23 budget updates. We talked about very preliminary discussion on fall capital needs. The fall meeting is Monday, October 17th. So with that in mind, we are going to meet again and talk about our fall capital needs and have a budget meeting on September 7th. So we can provide another update to the General Committee at our next meeting, September 15th. And then we have another meeting, our general meeting scheduled October 13th. So we'll make sure we have a additional budget meeting in between that time. We also talked about tuition-free full-day kindergarten and budget planning, sort of went over some of those discussions we've had in the past, and looking forward, gosh, all the way to FY25 and 26. So we did have that meeting, or that did come up as well. I guess that's about it.
Great. Thank you. Superintendent's evaluation.
A little early for that.
It is a bit early. It is a bit early. And then school start times. We had started doing some recon work over the summer and had a virtual meeting scheduled, but then we didn't have enough information to talk about the meeting, so we don't have another meeting scheduled yet, but we're working on that. All right. All right. New business.
Can you put these up on the screen? Because now I don't know that the descriptions are actually, they're linked here, but.
Yes, however, I believe they're all non-substantive changes, and that's, they were just here for information. The only one that would be more than substantive is the new position, the administrative assistant one, so I'll throw that one up. The others were there for, more for information, this just, if you had any questions, but.
So we've seen the job descriptions for the pre-K to 12 plus STEM curriculum?
Yes, they're all the ones that you voted on before, but then we had to do the impact bargaining with the union, and we made some slight adjustments on both sides to try to make it reasonable. We added like something, how many meetings that they could attend at night. It made it a little bit more specific, but it was very, I feel like it was very limited what we actually changed. But this position is the one that we're using, I think, some of our ELL grant and a variety of different grants. What we're trying to do, this is actually going to be one of our action items on our strategic plan. We talked about the onboarding process and how we can support students and families, particularly our more diverse students coming in. When they come in late in the year, they may not speak the language, and they have to go to sometimes 3 different schools and register each child. So one of our goals is to try to centralize that. So this person that will not be there at full intent of their role, but one of the things that they will do is during the year, if a parent wanted to register, they no longer have to go to the school. They could bring their 3 children, all the paperwork to one place, and this person would help them if they needed translation or if they just needed support, regardless of the language, if they just needed support registering. They're also going to be able to do some with our safe and supportive schools, our physical safety. We're looking for that fob system to be installed shortly. It's been installed just because of supply and demand. He's been checking on that regularly. But our intent is to have that front door locked at all times, again, to keep the building more safe. So we would need someone answering the phones and checking IDs and letting people into the building like we're doing at all the different buildings. So that's another piece of the role. What was the other portion that we'll be using to fund that? We shifted some of the duties.
The money for the bus coordinator piece is going to there, and Don is going to be picking up some of those duties there with regards to that.
So we shifted some of the clerical duties off of Donna because we had not filled that bus coordinator position, so that was still in the budget for this.
So this would be going here?
The resources, the financial resources would be adding to that, yes.
And this is a full-time position?
Yes.
So how many admin assistants are there then in central office? Like this is an in addition position, right?
So we have the HR role and...
I mean, in central office, there would be this role. There would be Donna, who does my accounts receivable, excuse me. Is going to be picking up the bus piece as well, does building use. We have the administrative support for this special ed director. We have...
No, she
considered... You raise your hand.
Yeah, but not to answer your question, I'll wait.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I'm going through things. We have our payroll person. We have our bookkeeper. We have the executive assistant. And then we have the human resources administrative assistant now. When I asked me to count that, I just counted them.
But those aren't all assistants.
They're not all administrative assistants. No, I mean, you're talking about a
They're
bookkeeper,
supports,
a payroll, I mean, right. I mean, it's not, we don't have...
I think
the
true
traditional role of secretary is kind of a...
True admin assistants would be 3. The HR admin assistant, which will help support the school committee as well as the really work with Lisa to help all the clerical work. And then you have the student supports clerical, and then you have this one will be the 3rd as far as what you think of as assisting other staff members in that way.
So my question is, now that Donna's going to be taking care of the bus stuff, can we make sure we publish, like, she's the person to call, so you can stop returning people's calls at 8 p.m. when their bus didn't arrive and stuff? Parents should really know, like, there's always going to be bus issues, especially at the beginning of the year, and I feel like I need to know who to call.
We have a generic number for that. Because, again, many people will potentially answer it.
Okay.
it's, again, a bus being late is a bus being late. We can't take calls from.
No, I know, but I mean, there's lots of like, the time, did my kid's time change? I don't know. I just feel like last year I was always wondering who to call and the last 10 years. And it's usually you that gets that.
I don't answer my phone, so it's fine.
Like, without a designated bus coordinator, I think there obviously should be, and so do you, but we couldn't hire him, and that's fine, but like, parents should know, like, if they have a bus issue, who's the person they should get in touch with.
Again, we have a mechanism to do that. It's not talking to one person, though. It's that we have a generic email address, we have a generic phone number.
And also, if you call the central office, it'll walk you through the directory. I think they just updated that.
I don't know if that's in it, but
It's in
again,
the process of being updated, so if you have a question about transportation, you click that number.
Okay.
But we do need to update the website too, and that's in process as well.
Yep.
Who was doing some of this other stuff, like before? Who was doing process student registrations, file and maintain student admission records?
So it was all done at the building level, and that's part of our strategic plan, is to now try to centralize it. So kindergarten registration is still going to happen at the building, but if people come in during the school year, one of our action steps was at having a more welcoming onboarding process. So if I have kids at all 4 buildings, I don't have to, because right now, if they enter in October, they have to go to all 4 buildings to register their children, and then add some time with family with a different language or just cultural nuances and not knowing, could be just even out of state, just the difficulty of that. So we're trying to just support parents. It's about the family engagement piece.
So I'm sorry, I missed the earlier part of it. So Lisa DeLuzio is now Executive Assistant Human Resources Supervisor. So we're hiring for a Human Resources Administrative Assistant. Is that correct?
Just hired that, yes.
You just hired that, okay.
But we did change some of the duties around, shifted them from the 2 descriptions that we had already.
Yeah.
So they're a little, just the titles, because we do feel that that position is definitely more clerical. Whereas when Lisa was doing, so she's now taking some of the things that she was doing back into her new role and shifting some of the other clerical pieces, over the other role.
Okay, and that's the person that's going to be helping to support the school committee, or is that Lisa DeLuzio?
That person will be also doing the school committee minutes as needed and things like that.
Okay.
We're trying to also do some of the cross-training.
Yep.
No, not this one, no. The HR.
Yeah, that's what I was getting confused.
Sorry, did I jump ahead? I apologize.
This position is a union position.
Yeah.
So they can't do the school committee work because of the confidentiality.
Okay.
The HR position is non-union
Right.
for that reason, because they have to have that layer of confidentiality with meeting notes and things like that.
Right.
Okay, so we are not talking about, okay, got it. I was just confused.
The previous Lisa DeLuzio position has been changed slightly, the title, to make it a little bit more streamlined for the clerical piece.
Do we have translators on duty, like on call?
We don't have them on.
We have a service.
Well, we have a system, but I'm saying we don't have them on the premises.
No, we have a service. We have a.
You're right, but I thought you were saying, do we have them like on the premises to translate?
No, like it says translates documents, coordinates translators for family meetings as needed. So I was just trying to figure out, I meant
Yeah, there's
service.
a phone service that we can call to get the service if they come
And then
in.
they will, respond, okay.
Any other questions?
So do you need a motion to approve this job description?
It would be helpful, yes.
So I move to approve the administrative assistant, registration, central office, operations position as presented this evening.
Second.
Moved by Stacy, seconded by Cynthia. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, almost done. So this next part, I just wanted to have a conversation about this with everybody before putting anything together. So the Zoom participation has been extended, right? And although I really feel like we should be here, I like the idea of offering Zoom participation for public comment, but I didn't want to make that decision without having a conversation with everybody here first. I feel strongly about it because of people with disabilities, and everything that I've read has been about increasing participation in every aspect of civic life with Zoom meetings. But I also think that if we're going to talk about, diversity and inclusion, that we have to think about people who have disabilities and have a difficult time coming here, whether it's because we're still dealing with COVID and they have, immunological concerns or just physically getting here. So that's my feeling, but I didn't want to make that decision I didn't want to make the decision to allow remote participation for people to comment without talking to you about it first.
I agree with you on that aspect. Does it have to be Zoom? Because I feel like the logistics of using Zoom, when people, it has been nightmarish in our experience. You can't hear, you can't see, whatever. We used to even do, the conference call. I'm not saying go back in time, but, can we use some other mechanism?
It doesn't have to be Zoom. We can say virtual. So we can
Just allowing remote participation.
Yeah, remote participation rather than putting the word Zoom.
Participants.
Yeah.
Is that for our meetings, or is that for subcommittee meetings, or all meetings?
I would say all meetings, only because sometimes I think it is also useful for us because COVID is not done yet. And now we don't have the kind of symptoms that would actually be problematic to, say, participate. But I would still like to participate if I'm feeling well, but I can't come in because I'm COVID. That makes sense. So I would think that it's just, or maybe someday, she doesn't get a babysitter. It's hard. I know it's evening. It's hard. So it's always been like that, but now we have an option. So I do think I like it. I like it in person, definitely.
I think the state is through sometime in March. So
March 31st.
Yeah. So I would like to have the option. You don't have to always exercise it. It's just that.
In my mind, I would leave it up to the subcommittees, like each individual subcommittee, to make that decision about what they're comfortable about. But I don't know. What do you think?
In my opinion, I think we leave it up to the subcommittees. I think it allows people during the workday to be able to have more flexibility, to have more availability for meetings. I would like to continue to allow people in these remote meetings to participate. I think Minnie makes an excellent point, which is you don't always have a lot of notice that you're going to be within that 5-day window when you really shouldn't, when you should not come, or if you have a young child who has it. So, and then you're not going to find a babysitter. So I think we should be noticing our meetings as both remote and live with the intention that we want to be here live because it makes for a much more efficient meeting. But in terms of public comment, I hear you, and I think that that's important, that we are inclusive to people who may not be able to come.
Well, we only have public comment for our full committee meeting. We don't have public comment for subcommittee meetings.
Right.
Right. So it should be a non-issue. Catherine brought up participation of the public, not us, or am I misunderstanding what you're...
Well, no, but to John's point, if I much prefer to be here. I think we should make every effort to be here, us. But if you have a kid who has COVID and you can't get a babysitter, then, we're still doing this, right? Yeah. So I guess I just wanted to have the conversation to see how you feel about it, because I think
it does give us more flexibility. Don't get me wrong. It's a different world now, and we do have a lot of things that were not there before, and we have the option. I don't see why we don't use it. That's my point. If given a choice, I think all of us want to be in person. This is just way more effective. But yeah, so I would definitely like to have that option in case we need to.
I think since we're all reasonable, we can sort of say we're in person. Our public comment is available by Zoom for the reasons you mentioned, which I think are spot on. And I also agree about leaving it up to the subcommittees. I think for a subcommittee of 3 people that has to meet during the day, it's really hard for me to meet during the day because I'm a teacher, blah, blah, blah. Right. I know on communications, we met virtually almost all of the time last year. I'm not on that anymore, but it was great. We just looked at the same document and we were able to work very productively. So I think, again,
policy also, I think we did that, right? You were in school. Was it policy or communications?
I think there's something else.
And if a subcommittee is meeting virtually, you have to allow virtual participation from.
Well, I don't think you can limit your Zoom participation to just public comment.
That's
Either
what I'm
you're
saying.
open or either you're remote or you're, you know.
I guess I just,
hybrid.
on the main meeting, people can view it, so if they didn't want to comment, I don't know why they'd want to zoom in, because they can see it. It's more pleasant to
Right.
watch it there than have to sit on a screen, I would think. But
The only thing I'll say is we're going to need to get tech
Want to
support.
visit, talk about
I
it?
was going to say, it is tricky.
There's another body involved.
Because the towns,
can do
the town administrator, they manage this very well, but they have a huge screen TV and they have 2 tech support people.
At times.
This is where it is tricky when he's trying to be part of the meeting and run that. So then we'd have to probably stipend someone
We need more help.
Yeah.
It is.
No question.
to do it well.
Unless we all just stay remote. I mean, yeah, if we're all remote, it's easy. When we're trying to have the hybrids are bare.
The hybrids are.
It is hard, hybrid.
Yeah.
Let's look into it a little bit more, because I am curious about how the state would handle people with disabilities who can't participate. Like right now, if you can't physically come to town meeting, you don't get to participate. So we should look into that a little bit more, because I agree with where you're going. But also, as someone who had to run the meetings on Zoom,
It's miserable.
Yeah.
But I think the public comment.
Public comment's fine.
Is quite small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
think
part
that
is fine.
to Keith's point,
It's more
once
about
you
the
open it to
hybrid.
public comment, then you have to let anyone in. They just can't talk. It's just a matter of keeping track of letting them in and out. Even though they don't really need to be there because they can view it, they may, you know.
Also, with the closing date of March, we could also try it, and like, I really can't foresee it becoming much of an issue, but if it does, we can always reassess.
sure.
I don't know if they're going to extend it past March, though.
Right. So maybe we reassess before March.
And to Stacy's point, it doesn't have to be over Zoom, it's remote participation. Is calling in an easier thing to manage?
I mean, calling in is easier to manage because you can hang up. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to the people calling in. I'm saying you end the process. When full remote participation, somebody has to monitor that screen because that's going across the airwaves to everybody. So you have to worry about people Zoom bombing, etc. All the challenges. I mean, you know, when we were completely remote, I barely was in meetings mentally because I'm watching everything. You know,
It was hard.
it's very difficult to do. I cannot recommend strongly enough, unless you don't want me talking during a meeting, which is fine too. I could just, do it from home. But no, I do think we'd have to bring in support. There'd have to be at least one person here to administer the meeting.
Yeah. And what kind of setup or facilities do we have if we wanted people to call in?
What kind of support, basically?
We can use Susan's cell phone, give them that number, and
We can also, I taught classes for a year on Zoom, so not to take your job because you do excellent at it, but if you want me to be the Zoom facilitator while we're here, I'd be happy to volunteer to do that.
But if you're trying to help with policy, you know what I mean? It does get tricky.
it gets in the way. I'm just saying it gets in the way.
You need to participate in the meeting, yeah. It's not really-
The other thing, Catherine, that I would just say,
How about having volunteers?
Oh, I don't know. Because you also,
Is this really
You get
going
a
to be that
snowy
big of an
day, you
issue
get it, I
though?
mean,
If it's just public comment,
It's not just.
I know
public
it
comment.
can't be just public comment, but
theoretically, it should be, and that is the piece, is that you have to have advance notice that they're calling, so that's the management piece. Keith keeps track of them, and then he makes sure that the name matches up and all of that. It seems simple, but I've seen how,
It's just, it can be a bear. I just, there's meetings that I just mentally missed.
What were you going to say?
I lost it.
That's it,
When
okay.
I think of it, I'll tell you. Oh, the select board allows public comment multiple times at their meeting. We don't. We have a specified public comment time. I think you also get the people who are like, but wait, I have a question. We're talking about something controversial. Wait, I have a
It's constant interruption.
yeah.
I have a question. As
So
it's
it's
on
like,
Zoom?
it's a,
Yeah, they interrupt
you
throughout the
really,
entire
I'm just
meeting.
thinking about the interruptions, I'm
Well,
still.
and that was one of the things
Yeah.
when we were Zooming, because
It's
remember,
constant.
at the initial process we did is that we didn't allow people to unmute themselves. So when somebody wanted to talk, Cynthia have to raise her hand, and I have to go unmute her.
And you have to watch
And then,
if they raise their
et
hand.
cetera, to keep people from jumping in themselves, because you can't stop somebody from jumping in.
Right.
From unmuting themselves unless you let nobody unmute themselves. So it was just, again, it was management, you know, and it was.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I run Zoom classes like every single day, Sunday to Wednesday. I get it. I absolutely get it. When I'm teaching, trying to manage that, yes, it's a lot of work. Sometimes you miss it. But my point being is that I don't think we will need it as much anymore like we used to. But it could be once in a while, and just having that provision in, I feel
But, I mean,
is, yeah.
Catherine's talking about the public participation. We're not talking about the school committee participating.
Oh, you're talking about like having them do every single time?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
allowing them?
Yes.
But, oh, my bad. Thank you.
No, that's, I just.
I was just trying to think that we are just allowing
You know,
them.
we as
Okay,
a
okay.
committee, if we decide that a quorum of us, for whatever reason, is down and out, and we can post in time, sure, we can have, that's not an
Got
issue.
it. Okay, okay.
It's the
Okay, my
public
bad. I was just
participation
completely off
that
track.
is such a small piece of our meeting. And in 98% of our meetings, it's
Nobody.
0.
Yeah,
So
got it.
I
Okay.
think we should just, but I agree though about the disability, and that is interesting. So let's do a little more research.
I don't know if it should be a post in time. I think it should be just post it as it could be the alternative, because you really don't know until
Well, that's the thing.
the
If
day
you-
of or the day before, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to miss
You'd have to have it.
somebody's participation here on this committee, or one of the administrators, if they wanted to still participate and they were.
You can flash a number on the screen, 1-800, whatever. Call school committee.
Let's get a little more information and talk it through.
And maybe see if we can actually get support for that.
We would have to pay someone. for
Yeah,
that.
the select board has an administrator that
They
does
sometimes
it.
have two people there.
They have 2 people there to do it.
What kind of expense are we looking at?
Well,
don't
one of
know.
them is their tech director,
And they have to
and then
give
they have a
stipends,
younger
I
person.
believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean,
All right, well, so
Maybe
maybe you
look
and I can
into-
talk about this,
Okay.
yeah, maybe what kind of
not at
expense we're
9:40.
looking at.
Not more than $1,000 a meeting.
Excellent. You're going to pick that up, Keith?
I think it's a school committee expense, you asked me.
Okay, superintendent contract. Susan and I talked a bit today about this, and then Minnie and I talked about it as well, and Minnie had said that she wants to read the contract before we sign it.
Yeah.
And then Susan and I talked about some other information that we want to review. So if it's okay with everybody, we'll table this for today and come back to it. We'll vote on it at the September 15th meeting. Is that all right? To vote to table something?
No.
And then the code of conduct for town officials, I sent that to you. It's not really something that we get to vote on or not vote on. It's just an information thing that you will eventually have to sign. If you have feedback or something, then you can send it to Travis. And then I think there's a point in time when I have to make sure that you've all signed it, but it's not from us. Or from you. Did you not
I'm
get
glad
that?
I'm glad they have one now.
Yeah,
I think that's
The
what.
code of
You
conduct.
should have one.
yeah. I shared it
And the
with you.
mechanism to
Yeah, no,
have
I
people
read it,
actually
yeah, I-
resign and all that stuff.
All right.
Actually is a good thing. The very first thing it says is that you have to be respectful.
Any items of information?
I forgot to mention that September 6th, the Tuesday after Labor Day, is the state primary day, so people are voting, so people get out and vote, it's important. And we have an open state rep seat that needs to be filled, so.
Voting's happening
And
now.
the Fair Share Act.
Yep.
So
Voting and
absentee
you-
voting is happening now, and early voting starts on Saturday,
Yeah. So,
Saturday and Monday.
the 27th,
Okay.
10 days before.
Anything else? Anybody want to make a motion for adjournment?
Oh, yes, motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. adjourned at 9:43.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Executive session, are we?
We do not have another executive session now.